All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday, January 28th, 2020 regular meeting of the Easton Planning and Zoning Board. As always, we are going out live and recorded via ECAP. And just in case there's anybody here regarding the continued public hearings for 418 Depot Street, we have received a request to continue those, so just so you don't stay here and become disappointed. So first up will be 411 Foundry Street, which I will,
Greg, we do have someone who is asking how long 418 is continued for?
to the next meeting. I believe, I can talk to you, something came up today, I can tell you in the hall. I don't want to make it public.
Tim Hurley.
Lorraine, Muratori Pyries.
So Stephanie, last meeting we
Andrew.
Old habits.
Yeah. So we reviewed the information and get any more comments?
No, it's rather straightforward.
Do you have any more information?
No.
Board members?
Nope,
Nothing here.
just request to continue so we could have enough people here today.
I know, right? Yeah, so we still need to close the public hearing,
Right.
and then we could potentially take a vote.
Would you like us to close
All
the public
for it.
hearing?
Okay, motion please.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Motion passes. Now we could have a little more discussion about the project, but receive no more information, or we could vote if there were a motion.
Deb, do you have any questions?
So I reviewed the video. Do you want to just, is there anything more that you want to add from last?
Well, we just closed the public hearing, so we can't really take any new information.
Okay, but I can ask questions?
I think maybe more like discussion among.
Yes, discussion about us.
Okay, all right. So, I don't really have anything more to add from what you all discussed last week. I don't know if there's any specific things that
pretty
you
straightforward.
feel
Yeah.
pressed
I
to.
agree. No, I agree. I mean, if that's it, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit.
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That was way better than last time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Should we get Greg now?
Yeah, sure.
Greg did recuse himself, right? When he
Yes,
walked out?
yeah, he did.
I thought so.
Did it quick. Had to run away from the ghost. All right. Continued sign review. 501 Foundry Street. ID Design.
ID Sign Group.
Done.
When I'm just out of breath, I can barely read.
Understood.
I did a lap around the building.
Oh, yeah.
So
All
just
right.
identify yourself for the
Yep.
record.
So Jamie Fisher with ID Sign Group. This is a continuation based on a recommendation to add some dimension to the pylon sign as well as the monument sign, which has been justified in these conceptual renderings. Yep, above me. So page 1. Oh, if you want to go back. Sure, we can go through each one. So if you want to drop down to the next page. So it's a pretty traditional channel out of set on a raceway. It's 34 inches tall, internally illuminated with some green vinyl on the face. Again, it's on the raceway, so it's going to add a certain volume of dimension. Next page. And the following. One more time, sorry.
Details?
One more time, please. There we go. There's what we're calling the monument sign. The monument sign.
Sorry.
So the monument sign is an 080 aluminum face, which is a pretty thick sheet of aluminum, with a 1-inch acrylic push-through letter. It'll achieve, again, that dimension that the board is looking for. This too is internally illuminated with the same spec'd out green vinyl. Or actually that's a painted face, I apologize, but it's still that Sherwin-Williams 6925 Envy Green. And the next item is the pylon, which the cabinet is black. It's going to be painted green to that same Envy Green with, again, another 080 aluminum face and 1-inch acrylic push-through letters. It's 169 by, 45 inches tall, 23 feet up in the air, so.
So the green's opaque in both cases, right? And the white is, what illuminates,
Yes.
right? Okay. Questions, anybody? Anybody in the audience? Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 501 Foundry Street signage now that we have 1-inch acrylic letters.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, continued public hearing, 7 Glen Road. Anybody here?
Yes.
And I need to recuse myself.
Let's be quicker.
Are we waiting or am I going?
Waiting for what? No, he's fine.
All right.
He's half deaf. Probably shouldn't have said that. Eat cat, circle back. So, if I'm not mistaken, we were pretty much wrapped up last time.
We were. The only thing we had left, Mr. Chair, was a comment from the fire department that we received the night of the meeting, so obviously we didn't have a chance to resolve anything. So we have met with the fire department and revised the plan. A couple of different things we did. We kind of beefed up the existing driveway turnaround to satisfy the fire department's desire for a fire truck turnaround. And we've also agreed to add a sprinkler system to the home. So that was from the fire department's comments from January 13th. Residential sprinkler in lieu of an additional fire hydrant and provide a turnaround area for apparatus for both the existing and proposed homes, which we've done. So I believe those are the only outstanding items.
Andrea, you have anything?
I just was going through the waivers, and since this is a subdivision, I noticed that there was no road construction detail. And so I would just recommend that you do indeed construct this to road construction materials and, with the normal
The normal
9-inch
depth.
gravel, 3-inch above, and then pavement. Normally a 2.5-inch binder with a 1.5-inch above of pavement. The
That's
road
fine.
has had some difficulties, so might as well do it right.
You okay
this
with
way.
that?
Yes, sir.
So, we just handle that through,
Oh, is this, well, it's not a special permit. Oh, we can
It's a
handle,
subdivision.
we can handle the decision, yeah.
alright.
Correct. Condition.
Anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
And one other comment, if I,
Oh, I'm
if I
sorry.
could.
Sure.
Scott, you're familiar with the street naming standards. I'm sure this is going to be Glen, I don't know if you're gonna continue calling this Glen Road, but if you wanna call it something else, you should ask the board.
We've called it Glen Road Extension. I don't know if we need to call it Glen Road Extension or just continue calling it Glen Road.
Before you go for a development permit, you
Mhm.
should get a street number assignment from the
From the
Board of
assessor.
Assessors, and they may ask, they're not big fans of extension.
Yeah, probably, and I think when you talk to the fire department, we'll probably just keep it Glen Road, but we defer.
That'd make it easier for,
Exactly,
the ties are already there, they don't have to change
Right, that way, just
any of their
eliminate
labels.
any safety ambiguity with the extension.
That would be fine.
Thank you.
So the width of the road leading up to the driveway, that's the 14 feet?
Right, exactly. Yep.
And then the radius that you will, that you're showing, that's, Eileen, that's the one that's been approved by the
Right,
fire
exactly. The
department?
turnaround. Yes.
What's that? Who would like to make a motion? Or,
So do we have to close for?
yeah, we have to close the public hearing. So, would you like us to close the public hearing?
So
Thank you.
motion to close the public hearing?
Second it?
All those in favor?
And then I guess motion to approve the proposed waivers on condition of the roadway conditions that Andrea proposed.
As identified in my staff report dated January 28th.
Yes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Good
Thanks,
luck.
folks. Good night. Well, not yet.
Yeah, don't get.
Nice try though.
All right, let's see. So the continued public hearing for 418 Depot, we have received a request to continue. And since our February 3rd meeting is in question, or if we do have it, it would be for zoning. What's our one after that, the 17th? Oh, you have it right here.
18th is still not.
So there's no reason we can't push this to the 18th, we can jump on, we're not out of deadline. Okay. So would someone care to make a motion to do so, please?
I'd like to make a motion to continue 418 Depot Street to our February 18th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes, thank you. Next up, 11 Old Stable Lane. Continued public hearing.
There
I
were
see.
2 public comments that came in over the last couple of days. You'll see in your packet.
We sit here?
Yep.
Good evening.
All right.
Hey, Greg.
How are you?
Good.
Just identify yourself for the record, please. and-
Scott Johnson, 11 Old Stable Lane.
Emily Johnson.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So, you want to start?
I don't know, do I?
Well, when last we left, it was an interesting meeting, because at the very end of it, we all learned there was a building permit, or at least I had learned that. It had been issued, I think, on June 2nd. Didn't surprise us that it issued, or could have been issued, just that, given the location, surprised we hadn't heard. That's not a factor here, so.
It was the notice matter of the abutters.
That was what the
Well, yeah, but
delay was.
right, and as I understand, by
I suppose
them being
That's
there,
right,
they
yeah, okay.
they waived it. Do you wanna?
And the town council did say that because the library directors were here, that they'd gotten functional notice,
Yes, and then there was another 2 weeks later.
and then there was a continuance.
So, nothing new to present.
Well, we just, didn't force the vote last week out of kindness, really, for, the concern of the neighbors. We thought that most people were, very concerned, as we're concerned. We want to see that area preserved well, too. And I don't know if maybe I'll just read you a little bit about, I did write up, because it is a chronology of what I've been doing the last 2 weeks on this, that is totally unrelated to the special permit application, but I did it, again, out of kindness and trying to get my neighbors to feel more comfortable.
Okay, sure.
We delayed the vote last week because the town did not give us all the abutters to notify. In the meantime, Emily and I took a lot of time to review our plans and meet via the phone and in person with the following people who were concerned about the design of the house as a courtesy to them, and to listen to their ideas in case maybe they could add suggestions that could be incorporated into the design to improve anything we had missed. We believe that many heads are better than one. Often in the wrestle that art requires, collaborative ideas evolve. We did this as a courtesy to our neighbors with the intent of fostering good cooperative relationships and to design to complement as much as reasonably possible the historic nature of the site. So the conversation I had on Tuesday the 14th, I called Andrea Lenghauser, Acting Director of Planning, and Andrea requested building restrictions be placed as a condition of the special permit to hold me to my word. Quote, unquote. Pardon me?
That's probably just what I said.
Okay. Emily and I are not willing to give design control to others for an already approved permit that is unrelated to the special driveway permit. On Tuesday the 14th, Greg and I exchanged several emails and discussing the siting of the building. I believe is probably the crux of what was going on there in short, without boring the audience. Correct me if I'm incorrect about that. And I want to thank Greg for his efforts to keep the town beautiful, and we're considering if any of his suggestions may be possible. On Friday, we had a meeting at the Queeset House with Jerry Marson and the library architect Jay Thomas to share possible ideas for what we are going to build as a house, what we presently have planned as a house. Again, this is not related to the special permit for the driveway. And Jay thought the house we anticipate was fine. And then at the end of the meeting, I asked him what he thought he would do with the land, and he shared a contemporary idea with us, which caught my attention a little bit. It's very different than what we're thinking, but we're looking at it to see if it can accomplish our goals and be within the budget. That's really what it comes down to a lot. Then on the 21st, I attended the board meeting at the library and answered questions. Jerry Marsan recapped our meeting with Jay Thomas. And when I left the meeting, I felt like the board was satisfied. It was a very, very nice meeting, I thought. I agreed to be a good neighbor aesthetically and communicatively by keeping the board informed of our progress. Although there's no legal requirement that we keep the board informed, we want to be active participants with the library and the magnificent structure that it is. I actually spent a great deal of time after the meeting walking about the library and marveling at its magnificence. I was also very moved by the kindness of the board to receive me and the warmth and dedication of all the board members. These are truly people who care deeply and give their most valuable asset to the stewardship of the library, specifically their time. The town of Easton is very fortunate to have their dedication. And then on the 27th, I phoned Andrea, and she reiterated her desire to put building restrictions on the special permit. Over this entire period, we've received many positive and welcoming comments from Old Stable Lane residents, along with many friendly comments on Eastern stories and Facebook, all which we very deeply appreciate. We've delayed the decision for 2 additional weeks at our expense due to the mistakes by the town in notifying the abutters. And as a bonus, we've demonstrated even more concern for the historic site and the feelings of the town's people. Special permit is unrelated and exclusive to the building permit. We are in compliance with all the terms and conditions of the special permit for a shared driveway. Most of the Old Stable Lane neighbors favor the shared driveway as the best way to preserve the character and wooded nature of the neighborhood. We'd like to proceed immediately with the vote on the special permit at this time. We request a yes vote from the planning board, and we thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go to the audience in time. So, board members, any questions or comments? Or Andrea? Anybody?
If you, yeah, if you don't mind, the second time around, the first time I did say I wanted to hold you your word. The second time around, when we spoke, I said I was looking for a condition that would address the special permit criteria, that would allow him to have both the design flexibility to build what he wanted and would maintain the view shed from the public way. And I asked if if he wanted me to write that condition or if he wanted to have his lawyer take a look at it. So I just want to point out that in my revised comments, I do have a very generic condition to address that topic. And I also found that there were a few things that, a few clarifications that needed to be taken care of by his engineer that I didn't see in the revision that we had in the staff report 2 weeks ago and hadn't been addressed.
Which are?
There was confusion on the width of the easement between 2 different documents, and that the fire department comments were asking for a turnaround, and the fire department comments, and there was no place for identified for snow removal. So
Okay. Is that everything?
that's it. It's all.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Well, Andrea, in terms of the condition, what is it that you're envisioning?
It's a statement I have here. It can be anything you want, but what I'm suggesting is something along the lines of the applicant should use all reasonable measures to minimize the impact of site work and building on the public view shed emanating from Queesit Garden at the Ames Free Library. So we have a photograph, I know you know this, but we have a photograph of the property from Ames Free Library. Oops, wrong one. My bad. And there's a building back here. If I zoom out a bit, you can see a building sort of over here, and you can maybe sort of see something over here, and this is the property in between. So just to use all reasonable measures to minimize the impact on this view. It comes out of your criteria saying that the special permit should be within the context of the neighborhood and the social, I think it's called the social structure.
In order to get the building permit, did he have to already supply a plan?
It's a foundation. It's a
That's
building
it, just the foundation plan?
Foundation permit. At the time, I wasn't involved and we didn't have this application. So we were unaware that there was any trigger for planning board review.
Well, because there is no trigger for planning board review on a legally buildable lot. So I'm gonna save mine to the end. So. Do you want to?
Well, I'm just, and it's, what she's asking for is something that it seems like you did at least verbally commit to that last week, is you have an issue putting that condition into the special permit now?
It's outside the scope of the permit.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, it's clearly within the scope of the special permit to add a condition and to consider impacts on the national environment as well as the social, economic, or community needs. So I don't agree with you there. But
For the driveway?
for a special permit, period.
Okay, all right.
So, I'm not sure where I stand on this, whether it's necessary or not. I mean, I tend to think that having one driveway is an improvement over two, but I think from, a discretionary perspective, we certainly have the right to put that condition in there. And so I'm wondering what your reluctance is to committing to something like that.
I'm just trying to figure out, the way it sounds is, I have no problem at all because I'm gonna do that.
That's what I'm getting at.
But my point is that who is the judge and jury as to whether or not, in other words, I think it opens us up for a lot of subjectivity. That's the thing I look at with it. Now, I don't wanna give up, it's not that I wanna give up, I don't wanna find myself in even a bigger mess down the road.
So, I was gonna wait to the end, but here's my concern. First of all, it is a buildable lot, okay? And so we're looking strictly at the common driveway. And, references to viewable from a public way mean the road, not the abutters. And what concerns me, and I understand what Andrew's trying to do, and I wish we could do it, but legally, I don't think we can. I think it's ambiguous. Because if, for example, look at that picture. To keep up with the neighboring properties. Well, the Queesup property barely has a tree on it. It's been pretty much cleared to its border. So if Johnson's were to go in and clear every tree in that property, you could say, well, we're just doing what the library did. We have nothing, unfortunately, we have nothing on the books that requires anything special, for lack of a better word, of the abutting properties. And this is from someone who, believe me, I wish, regardless of what's built there, it's going to be seen. And so when I look at, say, all reasonable measures to minimize the impact of site work, so when they excavate for a house and they have a large pile of dirt, is that a negative impact because there's no other large piles of dirt around? If they have to blast or use a hole ram, or a pneumatic device for ledge, I'm assuming there'd be an insurance survey to neighboring properties prior to the permit being issued to blast. It certainly should be, since they're all on the same ledge plane. But again, that's not under the purview of this board. And building, and it says site work and building on the public view shed. So that could be, that could be interpreted as, well, we don't want to be able to see this house, and that's just not possible. The house is sited within the guidelines established by this town at town meeting. So that's just a concern. Really, we're here looking, we threw ourselves on the jury last week to try to get the point out. But in terms of a common driveway, whether we approve a common driveway or not, that's not gonna keep a house from being built. And so, to me, it sort of shifts to, certainly there can be informal discussions as there have been to try to minimize the impact on the view, but we're here to talk about the common driveway, and we have to kind of flip it and think about the view from the other side, from the street.
Well, we can attach conditions to a special permit. I mean, that's kind of why we do special permits in other situations, we might actually use those as a tool. in this case, I mean, if the special permit's too vague and restrictive, it's counterproductive. So that's where we're sort of trying to strike a balance with the applicant so that the special permit allows him to do what he wants to do to improve the site without feeling boxed in, without potentially being boxed into a corner, so.
Right, but see, so if you look at the site plan, if you move the house as far west forward as you could, given the fact that the backyard of this house is 16 feet above the average finished grade of the gardens. So it's right in the middle, where that, middle of the lot, where there's a hill, all those circles facing around each other, that's a high point. If you put the house all the way, you're still gonna see it. There's no place on this lot that you're not gonna see the house from the gardens. So that's why a statement such as, minimize the impact, site work, building, and of the public view. Moving that house 60 feet forward, thinking about it, viewing it in perspective, doesn't really change the view all that much.
But that's just one way that Andrea proposed the condition. I mean, we're talking about something much more concrete. What I heard last week, which I was very encouraged by, was the plan that they're proposing now. Essentially single level, something that does kind of fit organically into the space. I mean, I think that's what Andrea is trying to accomplish by saying, we want a condition that keeps you to your word.
That,
And I mean, there are simple
The
things
drafting.
like-
No, I understand. Look, after speaking with Mr. Johnson, as someone who designs houses, absolutely, he likes Frank Lloyd Wright. I'd make it flat level, I'd make it natural stone, I'd make it natural wood, I'd park it right into that hill. But legally, it's not gonna hold up requiring that in the special permit, or requiring any version of that.
Well, I mean, that's why we have conditions for special permits, so we don't just say it, if we give a special permit development, we just trust the developer to design the way they said they were gonna.
But that's not
Right,
germane, that's not what this is. This is a common driveway to try to minimize the disruption on the existing public way. The public way being Old Stable Lane, not the library.
That was the point I was making.
Yeah.
I
So,
wasn't trying to be obstinate.
No, I understand. I'm not sure I agree with you. But
so then
in
propose a
terms,
solution. Propose a solution.
I guess what I'm suggesting is why not consider just changing the verbiage around to something that Mr. Johnson's comfortable with. I'm not trying to hinder this either, and I think that,
But what are you trying to accomplish? That's what I don't understand.
again, holding him to his word.
Which was?
Last week, saying essentially that, look, I'm not trying to interfere with the backdrop here of this site, single level. And I mean, if you want to just leave it at that, leave it at that. I mean, I think the main concern that I have is that this, 6 months from now magically transitions into, a large mansion. I mean, and that's the concern that I have. And I know that Mr. Johnson wouldn't do that because he said he wouldn't do that. But what if something happens and this gets sold to someone else?
Yeah, let's call it what it is. The only true solution to do what we're trying to accomplish would be for it to be purchased and preserved. Short of that, how can you can't, there's no way, it's not gonna hold up in court. We can't require someone to stay in a certain type of house or a one-level house. If this was a,
You're saying we couldn't,
if this was a special permit subdivision, such as our flexible development, where we have architectural approval, maybe we'd have a shot. For a common driveway, it wouldn't happen. It would not be allowed.
So you think that that's too tenuous of a connection to
Yeah,
a special permit
it's outside of our
conditions?
it's outside of our purview. Versus, read common driveways.
It's
And-
not,
Oh,
that's
I've
not
read
what
it.
you wanna read the special permit criteria.
Right,
You wanna read,
it's both.
the special you asked for a special permit for a common driveway, not a technical review.
Right, but I guess.
could be an in-law apartment, a
But
duplex.
you're
Yeah,
forgetting
driveway.
what they're asking for.
Can I ask a question? Should I withdraw this petition and ask for a different permit? Is that what did I ask for the wrong permit?
No,
That's gonna be
you
fine.
didn't. But I'm just
No,
saying, what he's asking for is a common driveway. He can build this house. If his only way to build this house was a common driveway, then we have some, we have some bargaining chips.
No, I
If you wanna
understand,
look at
and
it that way.
that's something that we should be considering here, is that if the condition, if any at all, is too restrictive, then he can just say, you know what, I don't need the special permit. I'm gonna go and just build my house with 2 driveways. And that's something that we should be considering. That's a real consideration. But I do think that we can put a condition onto the special permit. I think that's pretty clear in the language.
We can,
Whether it's
but is it gonna be
whether
effective?
it's effective or not
But I'd
is a
rather,
question
but
we
say, I'd
should be
rather do
talking
something
about.
that's effective, not something that's gonna drive people away.
Well, but in this instance, you know, he's already said what he's going to do. So why wouldn't it be effective? He wants to have one
Well,
driveway.
I think we have to be careful. We haven't heard, major details, and I don't think it would be fair, again, for why they're here.
Right.
To hold them to, I've heard lots of different things regarding this property. So look, we can go on all night, and at some point you guys can make a motion wherever you want.
Right.
But, before I go up to the audience, Deb, do you wanna?
What was submitted to the building department as part of the building permit? Where was the driveway for the house located when you,
It looks like,
do you have a copy of it?
not with me. It's basically, it's right next to the existing driveway, about, I think, 12 feet away. So there'd be, 2 strips of asphalt, and you're gonna cut 230 feet of trees by 25 feet that you don't have to cut. And
So would that be in the area, if you're looking at Old Stable
It goes in north of
Lane,
the-
where,
north of the.
where it says no disturb zone on the plan you have, right here?
Yeah,
it's
it goes
shown?
north of the electrical transformer, the easement on the plan.
Right.
And then heads down south of the hill.
I think there was one up here and then one down there.
They're right next to each other.
So
It's
right
it's
in
actually to the
here.
right of the electrical.
So what,
Oh, right.
so what you submitted was a driveway that comes
That's what's
off of,
permitted at this point.
right, a driveway that comes off of Old Stable Lane running parallel with the existing paved driveway, and then
Yeah.
joining up with the proposed 12-foot driveway?
Yeah, basically, all we're doing is shortening the driveway. That's really, the new driveway we're shortening to, it's virtually in the same exact location as the permitted driveway is, once you get 230 feet in from Old Stable Lane. You know, I did this. This cost me a ton of money because we've submitted language. We rewrote the easement because we found out that there was a problem with the easement. So we've actually corrected that legally. And I did this because I thought it would make a nicer environment, not just for me, but for the people there. And it was less disruptive, and it was less paved surface over permeable land. So that's why I did this. I've never built anything in my life that isn't aesthetically pleasing. And I mean, like I told you, I've won awards for my designs. They're not offensive.
I know that the issue that we're talking about is specifically related to the driveway and really has nothing to do with your actual proposed house, in that that's not what the special permit is about. But now that these issues have come to your attention, I mean,
Well, I
even though
showed,
you're not under any obligation to redesign or potentially recite or reconfigure the house, now that you're aware of people's concern, do you have any desire to rework with your own architect or engineer to give more consideration to that, now that those issues have been brought to
Well, he's
light?
committed to doing that, just
Well,
not necessarily.
well, wait,
Go ahead, sir.
excuse me. I already demonstrated my commitment to this in the last 2 weeks. I've taken time in the middle of my workday. I met with Jerry and Jay sat there, the architect that does all the work for the Queeson House and for the library, and he said, I have no problem with that house. It's a handsome house. And then I asked him in the end, and I was looking to see what he was thinking, but the house that we have a house that's fully designed that can go there, and we were just waiting. I don't know why we're waiting. We were just waiting for the spring to put it in. But so I've already spent all that money. I mean, but to do what Jay does is going to cost me another $30,000-$40,000, and maybe take me 4 or 5 more months to do it if we did it. but I've actually been drawing it on a piece of graph paper myself at home at night, just playing with it. But he didn't have, and I think you can back me up on this, Jerry, he didn't have any problem with that house that I showed him the pictures of, right?
I can speak to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Wait, I'll take-
Microphone and identify yourself.
I'll wait. I'll wait my turn.
Unless I got it wrong, I mean,
Jerry Morrison, 425 Center Street, and I'm also a member of the Library Board of Directors. And I just want to speak to where we've come since the last meeting, if I may. And at the last meeting, the chair and the board expressed their concerns, and concerns mainly of aesthetics and preservation. We discussed the history of the abutting property, which is the gardens, Quessett Garden, the library, the Richardson Memorial Hall, Quessett House. So, and we consider that, not just we, the library, but many in town, that sets out the palette. That's the campus we talk about all the time, and what that means to the town. And what it means to the town is really it's developed into the central location for culture, learning, activity, entertainment. You know, it's a very important site for the town and its inhabitants, and has been brought to you at great expense and great hard work on a lot of good people. It's been brought to you by much public and private funding and much energy. And that's the concern, and it's a concern shared by the board. So we have a special permit application here. And like some of the other things, we have special permits for estate lots, rear lots. All towns have these. But what it becomes, it's a collaborative effort. The town is saying, we'll give you a break in this regard, and you'll give us a break in this regard. Maybe less density, less pavement, less damage to the environment. It's a partnership. So we're talking about a partnership this evening, and clearly your own regulations, when it sets out the special permit criteria, it says special permits shall be granted by the special permit granting authority unless otherwise specified herein, only upon a written determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its benefits and impacts to the town or the neighborhood. So it's a collaborative effort. You have a right to set a condition, and the applicant has a right to build. But the question this evening, I think, is, do you want to be in partnership with a bad idea, or do you want to do something about it? So, yes, the applicant has rights, but so does the town. So you can set a condition, and the applicant say, well, I tried for a special permit, it's not what I want. I can build anyway. To me, a foundation permit is a placeholder. What I mean by that is, what a foundation permit gets you is your freezing time, so that if your time to build or your subdivision protection is running out. But at some point, you have to submit a building plan so that the building inspector knows what the heck he should be looking for.
No, actually, I'll interrupt you there. Town of Easton, foundation permit is step one to building a house. You then put in your foundation, and then once the engineers come out and confirm that it's been built in the proper location and doesn't violate zoning, then you submit your building plans and get your permit.
But for most of us, we know what our building is going to look like.
No, but I was just correcting your statement.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we know what we're going for, and if you want to grease the skids here and you want to make people feel comfortable, then you submit your plan. When Jay Thomas and I met with the applicant about 10 days ago, it was because we had this discussion. Board was encouraging, anyone, neighbors, whatever, to meet with the applicant. We had this discussion and called up, set up a meeting, we met. Jay Thomas, architect, consults for the library on issues of preservation and aesthetics. And Mr. Johnson went over much of what he went over before the board, went through that. Jay's comment was, when asked, he says, those are nice-looking homes. He showed a couple of designs. Didn't relate the design to this particular location to say, well, that would look great here. Those are nice-looking homes in the context of you have good taste, in what you're showing me. That's what Jay, and Jay did not make any comments until it was requested by Mr. Johnson. Well, what would you do? You know, what would you do? What suggestions do you have after we went through this? And Jay simply said, I'd spin the house 90 degrees so that the gable end is facing the garden, and not use some of the materials that you seem to be suggesting. I would use on-site materials, natural materials for buttressing the wall, etc. And that was pretty much it. Mr. Johnson came to the next library board meeting. Pretty much the same discussion was had. I think what's needed here is a condition. Basically, the condition is what your planner is suggesting, but I would go a little further and say I would ask that the library representing abutters, representing the town, should be engaged in that discussion going forward to be able to comment on and monitor the condition that you set. So I think you need to set the condition, but I also suggest that there be some kind of a device to see that the condition is met. And I fully understand that the applicant doesn't have to accept this. The applicant can go and build. But the question is, do you want to be a partner to that? Do you want to be a partner to something that you have no idea what's coming forth? You know, I mean, it would seem to me that enough effort has been made by the applicant over these months that he's got to have a pretty good idea of what he wants to build there. And I just think it would be very nice if that could be shown to us and have it and be done with it, you know. But you're representing the town on this. The town has put a lot into this, and we would like that to be taken into consideration. It's you know, it's a solemn duty. We're stewards of this property, and the library is in a particular seat here, and I think it's important. And we have submitted a letter, and I think a very respectful letter, and shared it with the applicant that states our position. And respectfully, our position is we feel, because of our role as stewards of the property appointed by the town, that we need to be involved in this, and we want to work with the applicant going forward and just be in touch and be able to work with that reasonable condition which has been suggested, and that the monitoring device could be established, and there could be computer rendered design of what the view will be when the building is established. So thank you.
So before I throw up, is there anybody else on the board that wants to speak? We kind of got untracked there. All good?
Well, can I just ask, like, as a follow-up to that, even though, again, I know that we're just talking about the driveway right now, you've submitted a foundation plan that has already received a permit. You have not submitted full construction documents?
No,
Do you have construction documents?
I do not.
So you mentioned something like you've already put in 30, 40,000. At what stage are you with your house design? Have you been working with an architect?
To do a whole nother design would cost.
Where are you right now with whatever design it is that you?
We've got it on CAD, and we're
Like
still,
who's we?
me and the company that's gonna build it, and they're designing it, the people designing it, and we're moving things, we're doing interior changes and things like that right now. And I did show them at the meeting a picture of what the house is gonna look like. It's a Vermont farmhouse, and as I said at the first meeting, it's 1 story and 2 bedrooms above the garage. The garage roof is a little bit higher. It's not a full story to accommodate it. So that's where we have the footprint from, is that we know what we're dealing with from a footprint perspective.
So what's your timeline in terms of construction if you already have the foundation permit, yet you don't have your construction documents fully developed? What is your plan?
We were gonna start in, probably in the spring. That's the plan.
Okay.
I mean, we're really far along, but we just, you have to get the thing totally, perfectly done before you want to apply. Picking finishes, I mean, we're at the point of almost where we're going to start picking finishes.
mean, usually none of those things are required for your building permit, but
That's how we do it. We have to cost it the whole, you know what I mean?
All set?
Yep.
Anybody in the audience? If you want to speak, just please grab the microphone and identify yourself.
I want to say also one more thing that,
Let me go out here first.
okay, go ahead, sure, go ahead.
Hi, David Farber, 15 Old Stable Lane. I think I speak for all the residents of Old Stable Lane in favor of the special permit. To me, it seems like a pretty sort of binary and clear-cut choice. Either the house goes forward, in a manner that I think is ultimately more disruptive to the environment, with cutting of trees and more asphalt, or it goes forward, with a lesser impact on the environment. And I don't want to see sort of like the town get pitted against Old Stable, and I feel like that's maybe kind of happening here a little bit, and that kind of bothers me.
Really? By this board?
No. I mean, just via some of the comments that, I've heard. I think Scott has...
Heard in this room?
No, I think Scott has established that he, very much wants to kind of make the house aesthetically pleasing and is acting in good faith. And again, I think to speak specifically to the issue of the special permit, which kind of, I was under the impression that's what we're talking about, it doesn't really make sense to me to put these other conditions on it. Because if you look specifically at that special permit issue, yes versus no, no means just more asphalt, more tree cutting, more disruption, with probably ultimately the same outcome in terms of the house that gets built. It's just a house with a different driveway. So those are my 2 cents on this.
Great.
Oh, you mean the town's view as far as the library is concerned?
Yes, that's what I meant. I'm
versus your
sorry.
view from the
Yeah,
street.
like
Oh,
view
yeah,
from the
right.
back versus view
Okay,
from the
right.
front.
Yeah.
I mean, doing the common driveway, I know it's not going to have a major impact on how the house looks from the Quessa Garden.
Right, yeah.
But still, as a global entity, I think it's a lot cleaner with the common driveway and more in character with, that neighborhood. So that's where I am on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else out there?
I'm Jonathan Richmond from 10 Old Stable Lane, and my wife is Donna Richmond, who's a library trustee, so I feel strongly both ways. From a perspective of Old Stable, certainly a common driveway is probably a better way to go. But I have a question to ask but certainly from the library perspective and everything that Jerry said, I think we need to hesitate and think more about it. The question that I have, and probably this may not even be the right board, and this horse may have already left the barn, but I walk the dog down there every day, and my pace is about 3 feet. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. I'm surprised that there's enough frontage there for 2 lots, and this may be totally irrelevant at this stage.
For one lot?
For one extra lot,
Yeah.
for the lots that are there.
Right.
So is that an
it's-
appropriate question to ask?
No,
or
that's, yeah, we're the zoning board, and we approved this lot probably 6 months ago. But given the licensed engineer plan that was submitted and, a quick site walk that we do just to make sure, when they close on the lot, there's a deed, the deed has to close, it abuts newer or modern deeds, so there's no evidence that there's any fraud going on, so,
So how short did your pacing?
Well, it's,
I mean,
it's,
Yeah.
because by the
Maybe
time
you were a little tight
Yeah.
that day.
I mean, when I was really good at it, I could get exactly 3 feet, but now a little shorter
well,
pace. Combine that with the different curves.
if you
that
walk
have
down
to
there,
go,
you'd
yeah.
be surprised, what is it, 150 feet, right? So
Yeah.
you'd be pretty
But,
surprised if
don't
there's
forget, you pick it up
150
on a
feet.
radius. And then
You
there's
can,
also-
but David's house is right there too. So, and Glenn's house is right next to it, and
Sure.
the other house is on the other side. So it's just surprising that there is that full
Yeah.
150
Well, it is,
feet.
you know what, after,
I mean,
I always said, I built
I'm
houses.
sure you checked that out before you bought the lot, of course.
When you're on a piece of land and there's nothing to bring it, it's amazing. So many times with the clients, I said, okay, yeah, your garage, your 40-foot addition is going to go over to that tree here, and they're like, No, it is not. If there's nothing to bring it into human scale, distances in nature, I've found seem much smaller.
Yeah, I just wanted to question it. I'm sure, again, Scott, that you've been through this.
I'm really cautious before I buy anything.
Sure.
I'll give you a little background. The same reason I'm here is because Stephanie Danielson said she thought this was an excellent application for the special permit. I wanted to avoid any consternation at all. I didn't even want to start this process. I mean, I'm just about ready to withdraw because I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I just wanted to do something that I thought would be nice. And she said to me, yeah, I think you should go for it, and then she retired. So but what happened is the land was sold, and I actually tracked down a guy that bought that land a long time ago and had a long talk with him. He bought that lot for a tremendous amount of money, and then Robert Taylor bought it back for almost half what he sold it to for, because it was not buildable, allegedly, at that time. And that's how I got to know Stephanie. And she said, well, let's look at this lot. And she looked at it, and this is over a year ago. It took me over a year to negotiate this with Mr. Taylor. And mainly because I was cautious because I had known what had happened. And then she looked at it and said, yes, it is. And that's why I got the foundation permit, because I didn't want to take any chances that I couldn't build a house there. Be caught like the other guy was caught, and then have him come back and say, "Hey, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar." So she showed it to me, and it went through, and that's why we had it permitted. And they explained how he did it. Evidently, he attached a piece of land that people aren't aware of. There's a triangular piece of land on the driveway that's there is actually an easement that's on 11 Old Stable Lane's property. So it's not. You may be thinking it's more narrow there than it is. And that's what she did. And she pulled the plan out with me and measured it and showed me and said, this is how it works. And yeah, it's good. You can do that. And that's why we went forward with the foundation plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. Anybody else out there? Okay. So, I just want to say, my concerns are that going back on our, in this case, we're here for a common driveway. There's nothing, and we can disagree on this, but there's nothing that I feel gives us architectural review on this as a planning and zoning board. And for me personally, the issue isn't, something, the library might come along and think a certain design is spectacular, but design is subjective. Half the room may love it, the other half may hate it. My concern when I saw this, when my jaw dropped, was knowing, well, the elevation of that, regardless of what's there, it's going to tower over the gardens. And here's a couple that obviously enjoys the gardens, wants to see it. Well, maybe they sell the house in 2 years, right? We've certainly seen that. Who knows what the future brings? What if the next couple comes in, or next family comes in, or next individual, and can't stand anything that happens at the library? And we all know what happens go on there. There's concerts, there's public, and the town bylaws in terms of sound haven't been an issue. Who knows if there'd be challenges? So that's a concern of mine. And for me, the solution would be, I would do one of two things. I would see it purchased and preserved into perpetuity if that was, something that was even amenable to the owner. Or, someone could purchase it and work with the planning board through a special permit to cut off a large viewscape of the back half of that lot, and then do a common driveway for a house closer to the street, preserving the view and preserving the use of it. But that's just brainstorming. Back to Andrea's comment, and I appreciate it and I understand it. I'm just concerned it's a bit ambiguous and open-ended and would need to tighten it up. And I really can't imagine it, and I wouldn't be comfortable, frankly, with any special permit having a condition of that the abutters are going to be able to approve that. And I can't imagine that's legal. But I'm not a lawyer.
No, I agree with that last point.
So after that, we have, I think we've certainly talked to this enough. And I think if anybody on the board cares to make a motion, I think that should be done.
Motion to close the public hearing?
You okay with closing the public hearing?
Just means no further information can be provided.
The way I see it is you've got, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say it to the butter.
Okay, so if we're gonna discuss this, will somebody second that so we can have a discussion? I was just asking the applicant if he was okay with closing the public hearing. So we have a motion to close the public hearing. Will somebody second that so we can discuss it?
Second.
Okay.
I just want to say, we're not looking to, as an abutter, we're just looking to be a player, just to be involved, get advanced information so we can have the continuing dialogue.
Oh, I understand. I just don't think we can put that in
We're
our
not looking
decision.
to say, the applicant has to come to us for approval. We're just looking for that neighborly, here's the first view, here's the step, here's what's going on. Just like we thought we were doing when we set up, Jay and I had to meet with them. Again, the library, a couple of people were gonna walk the land with him today. For some reason, he wasn't able to show. That didn't happen, the library was there. We just wanna make sure that we are engaged in the process. Sure. Because we have an obligation here. This is the town, this is the town of Easton.
I understand.
Not an independent
And I think in the 2 weeks that I've known the Johnsons, that they've demonstrated and have verbalized that they would like to work with the community. I do personally have a problem putting, any in a special permit, any power outside of its board. I don't think it's legal. And personally, well, I'll wait till we get to the discussion. So, would you like us to close the public hearing?
Can I say anything else?
You can, just so you understand, once the public hearing is closed,
That's it.
it just means no more information is taken.
Yeah, there's a choice here that you can grant the special permit or you can not grant it. And if you don't grant it, it'll be at the expense of the old stable neighborhood. And that's what I'm saying, and you won't achieve anything with legally for the library. Now, I said at the meeting that I would keep communicating with you guys, and I meant it. I'm a guy on my word. I'm not a fly, I'm looking you eye to eye. I'm not a fly by night kind of person. And I hope you can understand that too, Andrea.
I've got no personal relationship with you.
I understand
okay.
that. I understand that. I'm concerned that the fire department was brought in here, and all this stuff. You'll be putting more asphalt down if you widen that driveway and you put a turnaround in. And I think that'll affect the aesthetics of everything a lot too. And we can all fan the flames or we can all work together. And I'm dead serious. I showed Emily, after I talked to Jay, I looked at that stuff. I mean, I respect what you guys have there. I didn't buy that land to wreck it. You know what I mean? That's all I can say. And all you can do is look at the time I put in this week going around to talk to everybody to find out what their views were. I mean, I asked Jay at that meeting at the end because he didn't say anything. He just looked and nodded. And I said, what would you do? And I called Greg and I got his opinion of it. And, you can't just change gears in 30 seconds about something you've been working on for a long time. You have to let it incubate, and your brain only works so fast, it can only handle so much. So that's all I can say to you is that's who I am and that's how I work. And, worst comes to worst, it's going to be that Vermont farmhouse. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know right now because all this stuff came up and it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. That's all I have to say.
So your answer is, would you like us to close the public hearing?
Fine with me. Let's close it and vote.
Yeah, all those in favor. Sorry, kind of forgot where we were at. All right, public hearing is closed. That will end the public comment. So now, if any board member cares to make a motion, or we can make no motion and table.
How do you want to handle any potential, but not necessarily?
We should make a motion, someone should second it, and then we should open a discussion of the board.
Yeah.
Before we do that, can I ask Andrea, since you had mentioned that you thought, the reasons for why you thought the language was vague in the language that you proposed as part of.
So, yeah, so let's do this. I have this open. Bear with us, folks. Boring zoning talk. Special permits, section 23556. Criteria, special permits shall be granted unless otherwise exempt or set. Okay, based on the following: social, economic, community needs, which are served by the proposal.
You walked over the parent statement?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I kind of wanted to get to the meat.
She's not the only person.
Do you think
that
there's
likes
something
this.
I missed there that's pertinent?
The adverse effects of the use should not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood.
So you think a common driveway is more adverse than two double driveways to the neighborhood?
I'm not asking to debate this, I'm just saying that.
Well, you jumped in. Come
I'm
on.
just saying that was the language that.
Okay, well, we're familiar with the language. So, you know,
You guys
we-
decisions.
what we're forgetting, we're not here to determine whether a house can be built or not. We're here to determine if we're going to approve a common driveway or not. That's what this is. And so I've heard that we want to put, bear with me. So what I've heard.
While you're finding that, can I just ask
Go right
a
ahead.
question to Andrea?
Sure.
So your point though being that because it is a special permit, that even though you could maybe say that it is a stretch to impose some criteria on things not related to the driveway, it's in your purview to do so.
I believe that the reason the condition language was identified as ambiguous and vague is to set the intent, is to have whatever he is choosing to build here on the common driveway doesn't minimize the impact. It's not enforceable, the language that I suggested. It is just merely an intent to work with the neighbors.
But, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish here, because it says the applicant should use all reasonable measures to minimize the impact of site work and building on the public view shed. So someone could say, well, we should put up a 40-foot high screen while he builds, so we don't have to see it. Then it comes back, I don't understand what you're trying to.
That doesn't sound reasonable, and I think that when you use words like reasonable and minimize, they are subjective, but there are outlier things that clearly wouldn't be allowable, and it's merely to have Scott build something that fits. As best he can.
We're not doing it, but we could limit the height if we want to.
But in the past, when we've certainly put myriad conditions on special permits, but they haven't been ambiguous. It's clearly stated what we expect, what we demand, and what was the basis of our approval. I'm just saying that this doesn't do that.
I agree with you.
So if you guys all seem on board with this, so give me something. I don't want to put a condition out there that is ambiguous, because I don't think that is fair, and I think we can do better than that.
Right, your point is if we wanted to limit, I don't want to limit the height, but if we wanted to limit to 30 feet on the special permit, we could make that a condition, that would be a specific condition, right? You might say that.
Well, I'd
you
like it
can't
to be
do that.
legal, though. We can't,
Right,
we
okay.
cannot overrule,
No.
zoning, and that's, I mean, we can't.
I agree that this is too ambiguous. That I agree with.
Right.
I agree that we can put a condition on this, and that he can use the special permit or he could walk away. I agree that if we do put a condition, it's got to be more concrete, something as Peter suggested. But here's where I come down with. I see two options here. I don't see that we just don't grant the special permit, because I agree with some of the comments of the neighbors that, clearly one driveway is better than two here. I really, truly believe that. So then the question becomes, and you alluded to it earlier, Greg, is do we just grant the special permit in order to accomplish that? Or do we grant the special permit with some condition? But we don't want to scare Mr. Johnson away, whatever that condition is. We can make it enforceable. That's not, you just have to make it more
So
concrete.
what I would propose, okay, let's look at our brief 2-week history here. The Johnsons have come in, when we spoke last week, they had no idea there was gonna be any opposition. Then and I can understand, he's had a building permit for 7 months. I mean, when I went home, that's the first thing I did. Because I have such an exciting life, I guess. At 2 in the morning, I go online for permit, and I'm like, how? And Uma and everybody else I met were like, how has that not come to us? And not your responsibility.
I have a feeling a good time for him is reading the U.S. tax code on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm not that bad. But so if we had a condition, so I've heard the library wanting to be involved, but I wouldn't allow a motion that gives them, that this is the planning board, that just wouldn't be legal. But and I know Mr. Johnson has personally said to me that he's willing to work with us. So I look at, my thought is just personally as Greg Strange, if we say no to the driveway, then most people say, well, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm not gonna, because not saying that you would do that, but human nature, right? And so my mother always taught me, rest your soul, you get more with sugar than vinegar. I'd say, let's approve the common driveway, because from the old stable lane, it just makes sense. And that's what this was all about. These people had no idea what they were getting into. This is about the common driveway. And then there's a condition that perhaps the Johnsons and this board, members of this board, the planner, will meet or will conference via phone, every X number of days to discuss the progress of the design and siting of the house. So that at least gives us the opportunity to, because there's 50 of us in this room and we can come up with 50 different ideas where we like the house.
That's what I'm afraid of.
But yeah, exactly, right, but that's we're not,
the whole reason I'm afraid.
Right. So the thought is, because to me it's all about, it doesn't matter, it's all about from point A to point B. How do you, but at least the discussions could be continued, and who knows, maybe a solution that is more amenable to the folks in this audience, the folks in town, would come up, or maybe what you see there would get built. But they're allowed to build that, and by our bylaws, and with the exception of the driveway. But to just not allow that common driveway into seems, doesn't seem like a very smart tactic.
Well, if anyone can think of anything that would actually make sense and just not be, sort of vague, I mean, we'll listen to it. I can't think of anything that would actually really,
Well, what
make sense.
I mean, I kind of like what Greg just said, because that way there's input that can be given to Mr. Johnson and he can take it or leave it. It's not something that we're requiring him to do something. It's not something that we're mandating him to do.
So
But
yes,
it's sort of a
answer.
formalized
I know, okay,
process
yeah, well,
by which, we can give him some ideas and some insights.
Yeah, okay.
And that's it.
It's like he has to answer the phone, but not really listen.
Yeah, essentially. But I don't think.
But where's the evidence? There's no evidence of that. I mean,
I missed it. I was here. He's been here listening.
he said you're gonna blow him off.
Listen, don't do anything.
I said like you can answer the phone, but not actually listen to us when we have our ideas. I mean,
Yeah, right.
But what about,
If you knew how I run my company, literally, the employees run the company.
No, I don't.
I literally want to hear what they have to say.
I was just joking about.
I know I'm saying I
condition, that
take all the
means that, yeah.
ideas, but I'm the judge of the
About
jury.
conditions you don't actually have to do anything with, right?
Without making it binding, I hear what you're saying. Can't you craft a decision that recites a little bit of what's gone on and then expresses in the decision, or the decision reflects the expression on behalf of the applicant to continue the dialogue and the sharing, and, so that there's a record has been created of this opportunity going forward to collaborate. And then the world can judge from there whether it happened or not.
See, that's the lawyer, and here's the knucklehead. Said the same thing. He just, said it much more eloquently.
You're the town council, maybe town council.
So we could
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, we said the same thing.
Pat the
We really
dog,
did.
show the dog, and we'll take it from there,
so one of the tangible things that was said that could be a conversation point for these potential meetups would be rotating the house 90 degrees. 'Cause that accomplishes a lot of things while keeping the common driveway in its same location.
I wouldn't want to be tied to that though, so.
No, but
Although bullet point of.
I don't want to put
it's
design,
a point of minimizing impact. That's a very tangible.
but we haven't even,
idea.
I have no idea what this house looks like, none of us do. So rotating it
Do I?
90 degrees, right, that's
I thought I had a house.
We know where the garage is, though.
But, you know, right, but, okay, but, you know,
Well, I'm gonna say, let's talk about things that we don't, let's maybe talk about these things. It's just like, I kind of agree with you, whereas there's nothing we can really put in there.
I mean, I don't know necessarily, so that,
Right.
what is I mean, and your reason that is to get the driveway in the front of the house? I mean, the garage?
No, it it's further away from the property line,
What is?
the house.
Where does site plan go?
Okay, sorry. When I was looking at this house over here, you can see just it's a
But,
little
you know,
smaller piece
so-
than that one over there.
So look, so I'm just gonna throw out there, not motion form because I'm a chair and I
Hold
can't.
on a second. Emily just brought an idea. Could we make a driveway from the Queesit Garden side?
Where's the public way?
I don't know.
I don't know, I'm
She
just
just asked. She
saying,
doesn't know.
everyone in-
We don't know what we're talking about. We're just trying to work out a solution. That's all.
Because that would impact everything less. There would be no,
I can't answer for the library. I mean, but, you know, I mean, and that's not gonna be
Yeah.
solved tonight.
Let's
but
stick
that-
with this now, so we have.
But again,
something
you
to
know,
do.
but again, if we had,
Yeah, that's true. It's
if we
it's outside
had,
the scope.
I get it.
if we had, again, my idea was, you know, if we had we put a quantity on it, you know, or a time period, you know, where we just checked it, you know, whether it was face to face, over the phone, whatever. And we could certainly bring, you know, we can bring whoever we want for reps, that's fine, you know, to try
Here's
to
my
work it
cell
through.
phone. You can call me anytime.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
So anyways, board, so we've closed the public hearing. Do we even have a
Motion
motion?
to approve the site plan,
Okay,
special permit.
is there a second?
Second.
This allows us to have discussion. Okay, any further discussion? So are there any conditions we want to put on this?
I don't have any ideas.
It sounded like having periodic meetings that are appropriate to the design interval with members of the, or with the planning board chair or the planning department, and I don't know if you just leave it at that.
What about a condition that requires them to provide us with updated building plans? And once a month, I guess, we could have a condition that requires them to have a conference call with either the board or with Greg.
Or I think like if you put a specific time on it, like that's, the design may not progress at that slow or fast rate, so what if it's just at intervals appropriate to the
I'm fine with
design
that.
process? I'm just
That's-
saying, I
that's
don't
fine.
know.
Well, I'd rather use,
I hear
I'd rather use a time period, that way there's no, again, no ambiguity. And
That's the
then,
other thing.
and then that way we can keep our finger on the pulse and see if we can come up with a solution. That works for all.
What would
I
the
think
correct time limit be then?
a month.
So if we meet like that, what's the time limit? What happens if you don't like what we show you?
Sounds like nothing.
Nothing. I mean, it's just a matter of to try to
And what happens
continue.
if like I don't make the phone call at 10:30 in the morning?
he's late.
I hunt you down.
What's that?
No, I'm kidding. It's an hunt you down. Well, again, look at.
You and a lot of.
I'm trying here. I'm trying to, you know what, I hear you saying you want to help out. I hear they say they want to help. Everybody wants to help. I'm doing the best I can. If anybody wants to throw out a better idea, I think this is about as condition light as we can be. I've said, I'm proposing that you and I, or planning director, or a member of this board, talk once a month to see where we're at, till you get a building permit. And that's just a matter to, you know, to see if, where we're at, and if we can offer a recommendation or a communication. You still only have checked in with this town for a couple of weeks, and I've been here 32 years, these guys collectively probably a couple hundred. and to try to work out a solution that will not lead to the demise and use of the public gardens, and that's all everybody cares about. It's not so much about looking at.
Yeah, but keep
Right.
in mind what all we would be requiring is the conference. That's all we would be requiring.
Well, and/or you said provide.
Well,
I
and
wonder-
provide the
I'm
building
nervous now that I'm agreeing to something that, my lawyer would say, what are you, crazy? You know what I mean, I don't know if there's something I'm not seeing that,
All I'm asking you,
You know what I
and
mean?
frankly, go back to the emails you sent
Like
me.
by
It's right-
association.
It's right in the context of those emails that you sent me. Just trying to work out a solution. So I'm asking you to contact me once a month, whether we have a cup of coffee or we do it over the phone. You can talk to me for 2 minutes, you can talk to me for 3 hours. But you sent me some really long, extensive, heartfelt, well thought out emails. I'd like to think I did a little bit of that the other way. And I'd like to think I responded to guide and try to see if we can figure out a solution that, look, there's no teeth. It's not going to keep you from, frankly, doing whatever you want to do. It's just allowing us to.
you just want to make sure you have communication.
You have to
That's it.
understand.
You'll have it, that's fine.
We were here stunned. Those of us who are active in the community, there's many in this room, we were floored that, not that a permit was issued here, because I understand you had the right for that, but that immediately, I would have thought how close we work hand in hand with this building, that it would have come to us, hey Greg, hey Uma, hey Fred, hey, you guys, how you should check, because the hundreds of hours we spent on this lot with its previous owner, never was anything proposed down that edge. We never even thought about it. It's shame on us, but there's nothing we could have done. As a legally buildable lot, we can't say, well, we don't want you to be able to touch the back half. But it would have saved you the hassle of this coming up. It would have been nicer for this to have come up back in June than not, because you would have had a little more time. So, all I'm trying to do is keep the lines of
Communication.
communication open. My theory is that.
And I hope that people won't bust my chops through the whole construction
No,
process.
and just so you know,
I'm a little worried about that, to tell you the truth.
a second ago you said something about the fire department. Fire department checks every special permit that comes through, and be delegate here. We recently seem to have a change in approach. Maybe it's change in personnel, I don't know, but of comments coming back, things that they would like to see. I have concerns with a turnaround here also, given the nature of the land. And we're trying to, the whole reason for the special permit is to preserve the few trees that are out there. So there was not, I promise you this was not any.
And how would conservation feel about that? All that runoff from all that asphalt,
We already have a plan we're going to approve in about 5 minutes, right? So, we don't really have to worry about that turnaround, do we?
Right, but just I didn't want you to think it wasn't sick the fire department on you. It wasn't that at all.
Yeah, an 18-foot, the code is 12-foot for the road.
Right.
We're gonna cut a
Again,
25-foot swath. There's
Yeah.
plenty of room for snow.
No,
to go
it's
through.
just, I really, it's sort of an administrative transition time that it wasn't.
But, and here's the other thing, I went to that fire department and I cleared, they said 500 foot for sprinklers.
Yeah, that's our bylaw.
And that's why, and that's how I did the permitting of that. And, to then have them tell me I gotta put a $50,000 sprinkler system in a house after they told me I didn't, it's kinda like a cheap shot, I think, but. And the hydrant is literally a straight shot, it's right at the
Well, you
driveway.
have your permit, so.
So we're not really talking about that right
No, that's not our purview anyways, but
So let's
you have your permit,
kinda-
so.
Oh, good, okay.
now. So we've got the motion, we've got a proposed condition. The condition being,
Do you want to state?
Yeah, all right, so are we good? So we have the condition, you have it, right? We'll write,
I got it.
okay.
Andrea, where are
can
you
you
with
just,
this?
All
can you
those-
just read it
All those in favor?
Yeah, but we
Periodic meetings
Once a
between
month.
the planning department or the planning board representative and the applicant, once a month until the building permit is issued. To minimize, to work out a solution.
Building
No,
permit's already
just
issued.
put a period on it,
Yeah, just period.
just period.
And then I'll be reviewing the decision anyway, so we'll get it. So, okay, let's try this again. All those in favor? Okay, 5-0, motion passes. Thank you.
Is it over?
It's over.
It's over.
Or it's just beginning, I don't know.
Just beginning.
That's what I'm afraid of.
All right. It's not making a difference, Bill.
Good luck.
Greg, do you want the fire department to come into the meeting and discuss?
Well, let's talk about that later.
Okay.
We don't need to talk about that.
Well, you want it at a meeting?
Well, let's talk about that offline. All right. 6 Ford Circle. Continued public hearing. Is there anybody here for Ford Circle?
They've already come and gone.
It's so hard to put a condition on.
Oh, yeah, you can't.
Right.
I'll be there. I'm a little busy.
That'll be good.
I'll be there. I'm happy. I'm real easy to make happy.
So this is the
Thank you.
More closely at this after our meeting last week.
Good, you'll be carrying water.
Well, I don't know about that, but.
Okay, so,
Yes, I did. Probably too many, that's how I
So is
operate.
we're all good? Has this plan,
Been
this
revised.
changed since you came in last?
Yes.
Or since your colleague was?
Yes.
Why don't you walk us through this?
All right. Again, I think, well, one of the major issues we had with the common driveway was, again, just the fire department comments. So we met with the fire department. We come up with his comment. He wants the beginning section of the driveway is to remain gravel. We've put a turnaround in similar to what we did on Glen Road, so we have a paved turnaround, and then the rest of the driveway, where it forks off to each individual house, can be paved. The beginning of the common driveway, they're okay with it being gravel. Your zoning regulations call for a 12-foot wide gravel drive, which is what we have shown. The fire department wants 16-foot wide. So your zoning says 12 feet,
Yeah, it's
and
a
then
new,
3 and 3,
new
18 feet
occurrence.
total. So they want 16.
Can 16 work? Do you have the room for it?
Sure. Yeah, we've got room for it, so, what we have shown is 12, just because we didn't have a
Because you
chance
followed the bylaws, I
to
understand.
catch up to it, but we've got, we don't have that much of a problem with giving the fire department what they're asking for, giving them the 16-foot gravel up to the paved turnaround, and then from there it'll be 12-foot. So we have that. The next issue that is coming up, I guess, is the status of Ford Circle, and where exactly we go with that. So, I know we had submitted, as part of our application, a whole bunch of legal briefs and documents from the original approval of Ford Circle, both the compound and the common driveways. Walter Marioni did a whole bunch of research for us on that. So what we have out there is what's been there since the beginning. It's basically we'll say a 10-foot wide driveway. And the way it was approved was for that 10-foot wide driveway to remain. And they were gonna add between 3 and 4 or 5 feet of pavers on either side of the driveway. And that's what they've done. It's not, it's more of a riprap type of a stone than an actual paver that you would think of. So it's
That's
a little bit,
kind.
yeah, so it's a little bit different than maybe what was visualized. Everything else they did, they've got the lamppost at the end that they were supposed to have, the hydrant at the end. And in fact, there is a release from the covenant, from the town, I believe in 2012, saying that the road, that the compound road was built in compliance with the plans and was approved as such.
And somebody stole all the pavers.
Yes, yeah, exactly, and left the riprap, exactly. So, so we have that, I guess,
Sure.
the elephant in the room to talk about. So I think the common driveway, again, we looked at getting the 2 lots approved. Originally, we were just saying, forget about the common driveway, let's just go with 2 separate driveways.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. They asked us to, kind of to go back to the common driveway and get to the one driveway. So that's really why we're here before you. So we've kind of put everything on hold with the commission
Okay.
until we can get through this
So
process
to,
with you folks.
The elephant might be, it's a little elephant.
Yep.
So, I mean, I looked at it and I just thought, okay, originally, right, it must have been a driveway and it had this ridiculous detail.
Right.
I'm sure you would agree, right?
Yes.
Of pavers around it. Never saw that before. And then, kind of went out of date. But I'm like, all right, well, it's still better to do it as a common driveway for both for Concom and for all sorts of reasons.
Sure.
And for your clients' benefit. But I don't think it's too much to ask, given the existing condition of what's out there, to take that original road to what was designed, but without the 20 feet of pavement. They're gonna be out paving anyway. It's not a huge. I don't think it's a huge ask. It's not a big area, and frankly, it's not up to snuff to what we approve in Easton, and it's out of date now. And I think I'd like to see that done. Paved to 20 feet. It was 20-foot width plus the cul-de-sac.
One issue, a little stumbling block, is on the left side of Ford Circle. There is a infiltration trench to handle the runoff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if we pave over that, it's no longer going to function the way it was designed and the way it has been working. So, what we showed on this plan here that I think we submitted was just adding the 3 feet of pavement on the right-hand side. So that would give you about 14 or 15 feet of actual paving. You would still have the pavers on the left-hand side, or riprap.
Yeah.
And that would just,
Still not digging that.
yeah, that would just save the drainage.
What is, I can't, do we have this plan? Can we put this plan up on the screen? Or do we not have it?
That screen,
My-
can you have that is that.
That is that, okay,
I
so
just went
Yeah.
through that.
where is this infiltration, so this infiltration is within the,
Is on the,
There.
yeah, it's right on the left-hand side, exactly, just off of the
So, but if
pavement
you
within
pave-
the riprap.
but you can't pay, but
In the design, the infiltration trench was on the outside of the 20 feet.
Yeah.
And so the way it got constructed closer perhaps.
Mhm.
so you're saying that condition is all the way down on the left side?
Right.
And that's, so the maximum width you can pave is what?
Without eliminating that, which is
That's
there
what I'm
now,
saying,
14 to 15 feet.
Yeah. What we need is the.
Was that infiltration trench, so it was in the original plans, they just
Yes.
built it in the wrong place?
Right.
And there's
So-
no room to pave a little wider to the right?
Well, that's what he's calling out, the most you could pay, it sounds like.
Yeah, not,
Because, we're gonna go from 13 feet of pavement to 16 feet of gravel road.
yeah, the driveway is gonna be wider than the roadway.
Yeah. it does-
It's the way
And
the
so,
way it is right now.
The original.
We could,
I have it.
beef up the right side, more than 3 feet we've got shown. We could.
Oh, you just have to fill it in more.
what's the most you could
Is
get?
that what's holding you back, if they don't have to fill it in? Is it that,
Can we get 18 feet total?
Yeah, we could. We could add 6 feet to that right-hand side.
Because we've allowed, in similar conditions, we've allowed 18 feet of
Yep.
pavement. And I would prefer to do that than
Yep.
go to a wider, I'd rather, a street should go to either the same width or a narrower driveway.
It would,
And
right,
I think,
right.
especially with the existing house.
You
Yep.
might need some kind of, is there a slope that you'll have to deal with there, Scott?
There's a little bit of a slope, really just right at the beginning with it, at that wetland area.
so
But
it's graded down towards the wetland?
Yeah, but
though, right?
there's enough room where-
There's enough space there, right? Yeah, no.
there's enough room to make it work. Of course, it's gonna require,
You might even use the riprap stones to hold back the slope?
we could, make good use of it. Kind of recycle, reuse.
Oh, but yeah, so you say once you have to do work in there, there's other.
Yeah,
other things
obviously,
you have
we
to
would
do.
need to go back to Conservation Commission and show them that new part of the work, but we could certainly make that work. If we added, If we added about 6 feet on the right-hand side, that would give you 16 to 18 feet within the Ford Circle roadway.
So
Yeah, I
you-
really want to get 18.
Yep.
So can you create a plan showing what you're gonna do so we can see what
Yeah.
this looks like?
We'll have to-
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have it.
So you're gonna make it 18 feet down, no cul-de-sac, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
And the hydrant is on the edge of the existing driveway?
Exactly, yep.
It will be on the edge of the newly built road?
Yep.
Driveway road.
Well, it's
Yeah.
there.
I think, I mean, you're basically looking for us to construct the cul-de-sac as well.
Yeah.
Eliminate the pavers,
I don't want to see any pavers. Yeah. I mean, they're not even pavers at this point.
pavers.
Yeah, it's riprap in the mud.
It's
That's
riprap.
what he said. Must be great when you plow it.
Oh, man,
You know?
yeah.
And again, we have to maintain some standards here.
Yep.
Try to work with them, but
Yep.
that's
Yep.
that's the
No, I
screwiest
think-
plan I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
no, I think that makes sense at this point.
Should the new plan just be clean with what should?
Oh, yeah, it's got a revised plan.
But you don't wanna see all the old stuff on, behind it?
Well,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want.
Yeah, we'll do the
existing.
existing conditions
Yeah.
plan that shows
Yeah.
what it is
Yeah,
now.
okay, that'd be
Then
good,
a whole
yeah,
new
okay.
second sheet that shows what we're gonna have
Perfect.
it look like and what you folks would hopefully
So
eventually.
I know
approve.
fellow board member Attorney Stetson has done some work.
Well, I was really trying to give the neighbor there an opportunity to speak his mind, and
Sure.
there's probably some things that he could bring up based on my review of the documents, but I don't see him here. I don't know if I'm not
No.
recognizing him.
No, he's not here.
Okay.
Any Ford Circle resident here?
Given that he's not here and doesn't have any input, I really don't have any additional comments.
Okay. Anybody else on the board, or Andrea, anything you wanna add?
I suggested that while you're talking about the road, you might also want to modify the condition for maintenance approvals. In the subdivision, it was monthly, and they have not complied with that. And therefore, I didn't know if, I assume that in having Scott go out there now, he's done an
Right.
inspection of the current conditions.
Yep.
And perhaps you want to address a more reasonable maintenance.
Monthly in
report.
perpetuity?
It was monthly.
In
For-
perpetuity?
and
It specifically says in perpetuity.
It does?
It does.
I think,
Town hall like that much paperwork coming
No,
in?
honestly, I believe
Wow.
that there are people, I mean, I'm surmising that they expected that road to fall apart. And they're waiting for the moment to
Yeah,
happen.
could be right.
I think the,
And they were
So why'd they
expecting it to
approve it
happen
in the
within
first
within
monthly
months
inspection
and not years.
would probably work for the roadway, during construction.
Right.
Just during construction. But once, there's construction.
library.
Once, I think once it's constructed and everything's done, then maybe twice a year, do a fall inspection and a spring inspection. Usually like to do something after the leaves drop, and then after the snow is melted and you clean up all the salt and the sand is usually, how we've done other projects.
Okay.
Usually twice a year works.
Do you think that's more than is needed?
I think that if you put in a good, if you put in a good base.
Yep.
And you get, it's nice and level, it should last more than.
Yeah.
It should last, and I don't know what kind of, when I think of 6 months, I think that there's some kind of drainage system you're trying to unclog.
Yep.
I don't know if you can unclog this drainage system.
Yep.
So certainly
Annually?
if he's
Or is
offering,
even that
if
too
he's
much?
offering 6 months and he's the professional engineer, then that's terrific. I was suggesting annually.
Let's do annually.
Sure.
'Cause you know what? Because, right, yeah, I think.
Were any of the proposed, the landscaping trees, were those planted? Was the idea to separate the 2 yards?
Those are new.
Yeah, those are all new,
Oh,
just
okay,
for
those are
the,
ones, right, yeah.
yeah, just the landscaping for the common drive.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I had found the original
Oh, really?
approved plan if you wanted to see it.
Oh, no. So,
We got, anybody in the audience? This is a public hearing. So, I guess you're just gonna come back one more time with the revisions, right?
I think that would be best, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have anything else before we?
So did we confirm that we're gonna do 16-foot wide?
18.
18, sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Bite your tongue.
Motion to continue to the next meeting.
Second. All those in favor? Motion passed. Thank you, sir.
All right, great, thanks, guys.
All right.
Next meeting or the 18th?
Probably the 18th.
Okay.
We'll figure that when we talk next. So
Just say next meeting in case.
Colin.
Is the 18th?
There might not be a meeting on the
18th
third, but
will
we
be
don't
fine.
need it.
Okay.
Or it may just be a zoning meeting, so. All right, next up, Weber Farm Architectural Review. I'm not involved in this, but since I've done work in that subdivision, I'm going to recuse myself. Won't take a lap on
Yeah, we don't want you falling down out there.
Hey, how are you? Thank you.
How you doing?
Great.
Good? I got one extra here.
Definitely prefer these larger plans.
Oh, you already have the plan?
How we doing?
Good. You want to?
Yes.
One extra here.
Oh, thanks.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so we're looking to review the architectural plans for lot number 4, Weber Farm. This is Couch Design H. This is part of the special permit. There was a requirement that we review the architectural plans. And,
Before the foundation.
before? Typically. Yeah. Typically. Board members, do you have any comments?
So this will be the 7th house that's being built in there.
So this one, you did pour the foundation before the architectural plans, or you're gonna do it
No.
afterwards? Yeah?
I've never done that.
Oh, really? Not on this road?
I don't know how you put a foundation until you do your plan.
Or
Do you?
It's been done. It's been done.
On some of the other approved plans, we had more of a combination of materials like vertical boards and clapboards. I see that there is masonry on this one, which I guess.
So
is
these
a-
people, in fact, I brought it, they came from Colorado, and they wanted the house built that they had, similar to what they had in Colorado. So, I don't know. Do you, but we can, if you want us to change some of the gable ends and stuff, we certainly can.
I mean, it
But we're
just looks
trying
like,
to do what, duplicate the house that they lived in 5 years ago.
I mean, I think we've discussed this when we talked about the other plans, that you were looking for variation and you don't want every house to obviously look exactly the same. So I'm not saying that you have to use
Which we've
the
done.
exact same things, but there might have been a little bit more of a play with some of the materials, and it looks like you could probably easily add some detailing in, especially maybe on that right side elevation,
So-
or on the gable tops, but I mean, other than that, I think it's, it's fairly in keeping in terms of scale and, gables with a lot of the other houses that you've done anyway, so I don't see anything.
Sort of hard, someone comes with a house that they had
Right.
5 years ago and tell them you don't want to build it.
Oh, well, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying like some of the,
Well, we can, if you want us to do something different, but this will be the 7th house
and we got 7 different houses in a 14-lot subdivision, which I think is unique for Easton.
It's good.
So
Are you using the metal roof
I
on
don't think
that?
we'll get, I think on the remaining 6 or 7 lots, there'll be a duplication.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, like, I think some of the other ones that we approved might have had a little bit more of a playful mix of materials, where this one really is, other than the masonry.
Yeah, they wanted, that's what they had, like I said, in Colorado, the brick coming up a little bit on the garage and the,
I don't have any strong objection to what you presented. I'm just saying it doesn't seem to have as many elements as some of the
Yeah, I
other
definitely
ones
looked at
that
another
we
one, but I think you're right.
approved.
Is the roof over the porch, is that a metal roof or just an asphalt?
no, but when
Some
we
of the
did
others, yeah.
one of the other houses of the first 6,
Right, yeah.
they wanted asphalt to make it different.
Yeah.
And on this side of the road, the first, lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3 do have the metal roofs. So this at the bend,
Yeah.
and they wanted here again, the house in
Yeah.
Colorado that they were duplicating had the asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do, but maybe Deb's point is that this one is just looks like, besides the brick, it's more of like a, kind of like a regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing really.
Yeah, so
Well, maybe that'll serve as a good variation
Yeah.
for the development. This one has less details than the others. Maybe the others.
It does have bricks. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the architectural review lot 4 house design.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thanks. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, discussion for the Five Corners and Village Business District zoning amendments. And so originally we thought Judy was going to be joining. We found out she was scheduled to come in, I guess, at the 3rd.
Yeah, she was scheduled to come in on the 3rd. There was otherwise nothing else going on the 3rd. So we asked her to come tonight and she was not available.
So, let's see how to approach this. I know we have some interested folks in the audience. So Andrew, do we have, did she ever send us a map with the 3 sub-districts?
No,
Okay.
we have the original map. I'm having trouble pulling it up here, but we do have the original map.
Okay, so to give a little brief history to the folks watching on TV and the folks in attendance. As you know, back in the summer, we embarked on an effort to.
Sorry, I was gonna.
There's nothing wrong with it. It
If you
came
zoom
up
in, it
before
might-
earlier. Oh, you think if I zoomed in? Oh, thank you
Might-
so much.
Do that.
I'm not, I'm getting to the point, the night, the part of the day where I get a little more stupid.
So
There you go, thank you.
we started in the summer working on
Not really, but.
rewriting, basically, redefining the zoning in the 5 corners, what we're calling the 5 Corners Village District. District runs mostly from its western point would be think of it, if you go past the intersection with Robert Drive and you get down and there's probably the 5th commercial building on the right, that small commercial building has that sloped stone wall, retaining wall, been there for years. That's the last building on that side, and the North Eastern Savings Bank headquarters. on the opposite side of the street, a little further up. And then it runs all the way down easterly to I'll call it the U-Haul store, if you will, up by Shaw's. And then there's a small, I believe it's a White House across the street. Remember, we ran through all the photos. All of the properties that abut the street, with the exception of the condo developments or any already open space, such as the ponds, goes up, catches Shaw's Plaza, goes all the way up to Whistle Stop Village on Depot Street and to the Northeastern Savings Bank across from Shaw's. Goes down Bay Road to the fire station, excuse me, and there's a single family house just east of the fire station across the street. And forgive me for not, I should have had my maps with me, I could have given you the address, but, and then further up on, think of the Quanticut South Street area, it includes the car dealership, includes the Keach, I always call it the old Keach building, and includes, if you go just to the right of where that palm icon, his hand icon, that parcel right there, that parcel on the corner of South Street. So, as you know, the whole purpose behind this was to look to really create, stimulate economic development brought on by the sewer, really by making it one of the town's 3, what we're going to call walkable neighborhoods or villages. The first one being Village down here, the old Northeastern. Excuse me. Second being Queesit Village Business District. Think of PAZ Plaza, that neck of the woods up there, down to the Queesit Commons. And this one. So we find ourselves sort of at a transformational time. In the old days, we used to think mixed use. Okay, let's put commercial on the first floor and residences above. And we still think that to a degree, but commercial is changing. Retail, we're in the midst of it, as we know, brought on by the internet. We certainly have opportunity, sorry Neil, block your ears, for more food services. As we know, we're underserved by restaurants in town, right? Because no one can ever do it without sewerage, or limited. But so we started working, and as we went through, Stephanie Jamison, our previous town planner, left back at the end of the year. And we didn't quite we're a little slow in getting things from our consultant, but we had a really productive meeting here a few weeks back, where the board had a good parcel by parcel discussion, because it's really not a large parcel when you think of it. So it's a large district. So it's like, let's look at each parcel. Let's think realistically what could happen at some point. You can never see into the future, and then craft our zoning around that. So and I apologize, we don't have a map that shows this, but we came up with 3 districts, 3 sub-districts, I should say. And the first one is the Depot Street sub-district, the residential transition sub-district, and the Eastman Street sub-district. So the Eastman Street sub-district is, what you think? It's up around Target. Can't give you the exact extremities of it yet because we haven't, but I can say it probably goes down to the pond, I would think. But we're waiting to see what our consultant came up with, and then we would take it from there. But safe to say, it goes down to about the pond. Because then you think from the pond up to just about the subway shop, it's pretty much residential.
Excuse me, which pond? Old or new pond?
Well, both ponds, really. But what's the furthest west? Old Pond?
Deep
New Pond. So,
It wouldn't include all the conservation land, right? That's what
right, exactly. But so think of it after the ponds. So the first building after the pond is the car dealership, right?
Oh.
Isn't it? Oh, there's a single family house. There's one single family house, right? But right after those, just think of everything east of the. And again, this is all still being formed, but just the midst of it. You think of it, it's mostly residential from the pond up to the subway shop. Obvious exceptions: the car dealership, the Keach building,
I think that's it. Or, is yours fall
Subway shop.
before? Well, you're right there, so.
It depends what you
Yeah.
consider, because you've got the
I think
dentist,
you
you've got
would-
the dentist
you-
office with apartments above it.
Right,
That's next to the Subway shop, I mean.
So in that neck of the woods.
There's give and take.
Let's, yeah, so let's not, for tonight's purposes, let's not be so much
Conceptual as
parcel
opposed to
specific in
problem.
terms of where it ends.
I'm with you.
Again, it's kind of silly not having a map to refer to.
Okay.
But by all means, feel free to chime in where you think that should end, if you want to.
So let's
Let's
all
stop
fluid.
us from doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
and I actually brought markers if you wanna.
And then the the Depot Street sub-district, which would be everything else. The general thought was, and you know, and this is, you know, the elephant in the room to, you know, I believe, and I think, I think most planners would agree, that the way to stimulate economic development in this area is going to be tied heavily to creating diversified housing types. Certainly there's going to be commercial growth, but there's a number of properties here that could be repurposed, expanded, that could benefit. So we tried to look at types of residences we would want. So, you know, we have coming up in the next month or two, they'll start a presentation and approval for small single-family homes, our first compact neighborhood at the Foundry Center. Excuse me. So and we can walk through the wording, but so basically the Eastman Street sub-district is thought there would be perhaps opportunity for denser residential up in that neck of the woods, along with commercial. The middle, we have to come up with a better one than the residential transition sub-district. But we're looking to, maybe it's not a little catchier, looking to enhance and possibly expand the network of historical homes in that area. So there's, you know, for example, if you restore the building, if you keep it historical, there's opportunities for density bonuses in there. There's a proposal in that throughout this to go to one dwelling unit per 10,000 square feet. So you think of it right now in Easton, we have 40,000 square foot lots. Not everything, but there's many pre-existing non-conforming here, but a builder's area they call it right now. So the thought would be, as we're looking, much as we did with the compact neighborhood district, quarter acre, smaller lots, so that we can, you know, get more small A affordable housing, so we can start to attract everybody, empty nesters, maybe small families. Because the vision in here would be within 10 years, to have sidewalks, much improved streetscape, you know, trees, more green space. Part of the compact neighborhood proposal is going to include, as mitigation to the town, turning lanes and traffic light at the Quantico. So that's a big step, you know, in that direction. And then the Depot Street sub-district, you know, mixed use activity designated for moderately intensive development. So when you get into, so really the crux of it is we get into the density and dimensional regulations. So really what we're trying to do is improve upon what's out there. It's a great neighborhood to begin with. We'd like to stimulate it by increasing residents, not a huge amount, but you know, to make walkable neighborhoods. We believe that there are, you know, right now many of our children's generation are living in the city, but when they, you know, as they age out, I think, you know, of the belief that many of them will come back, maybe not necessarily to Easton, but they'll come out to the suburbs. They've gotten used to quarter acre living. And in this neighborhood, right now there's 29,000 cars a day. And that's not because of anything that's happening in Easton, it's because of the two highways that they cut between. There'll probably be 40,000 in 10 years. So the thought is, folks that live in this area, with an increase in services, neighborhood amenities, including sidewalks,
can truly become that walkable neighborhood. Right now, we say to people, we're gonna walk all there, this because there's no room to walk, there's no means by which to walk, but, so that's the goal. And we're planners, so we have to think, we have to think out of this. And we're trying to create tools to put this in action. So quick bullet points, some of the specifics. Excuse me.
We had you still have that January 7th note to help you in your binder on bullet points?
Oh, I don't know, what was it?
Yeah, it could be in there.
I got stuck in the library, I didn't get that far. Well, go ahead, Andrew, you can pick up while I look at this.
Well, I think we can talk about the discussion on the mechanism, how to do that separately, but this is actually, you have, good, you have that. Okay. So is it overlay district is what we're speaking about, I assume, unless you say differently, we don't have that. What detail do you want to go into? Do you want to go into the design specifications, or do you want to go into boundaries, or do you want to go into the name of the district, or the mechanism of how to do it? How do you want to proceed?
Oh, I want to talk about the dimensional specifics. I think that's probably what this picture is most about.
The dimensional stuff is probably the use statements in the back, the use table in the back, and then dimensions. I thought 10,000 square foot. So over here on these buildings, okay. These building requirements are on page 2 are called, what she describes something called a major development.
Well,
which is a development of 25,000 square feet or more.
I think what
and
I'd
then
like
she
to
speaks of a minor.
I think we should talk about the building regulations.
Okay.
That really shows.
And so that B is within the thing on the next page is called the major development. And that's a 25,000 square foot area, that's the major, otherwise the residential has a smaller use table, do you see that? A smaller dimensional table? So, if a project comes in that has, did she give us 25,000 square feet? Yeah, 25,000 square feet or more of floor area would have these dimensional requirements at the top of page 3. Would have, yeah?
Just for the benefit of Dale, right, Dale Carrister.
I think you have to take
Sure.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Dale Carrister, I live at 21 South Street, so I'm right smack dab in the middle of the district, but more importantly, and I thank you for Greg and thank you for Connor for giving us the heads up about this meeting. More importantly, I'm here along with 4 or 5 of our other A-team of the Furnace Village Neighborhood Collaborative Group that formed in connection with the sewer project. We've got 175 members in the district, that were impacted by the sewer. Our mission was to work with the town to reduce that. We did that. My role here, separate and apart from any opinions I have about particulars, is to keep our group informed. I was just going to ask, and I didn't want to go into any more detail now, but can you, when you're summarizing, just break it down by, I understand there's differences between what you're planning for the extremities, which are the sort of the commercial area, as opposed to the residential. So when you're talking about what's changing, if you could just maybe identify by the sub-district first, so we have an understanding for folks who are hearing for the first time. Thank you.
Want me to take that?
Yeah, because I think
sure.
the major subdivision was the 2 sides, was Depot and
Right.
Easton.
Right, yeah.
And then the residential sub-district is item 2 at the bottom of page 3.
Right. So, in the residential sub-district, right, so really what it comes down to, maximum residential densities, 1 dwelling unit per 10,000 square feet.
This is under the new regulations proposed?
Proposed, correct. And again, this is the first time as a board that we're looking at this. So this is a working document. But like everything, we have to do all public hearings, and so we thought we'd bring you guys in to listen. So the thought was, because in that district, there are single-family homes, there are some houses that have 2 or 3 apartments.
there's a few mixed use. I'll read out what it says. The Planning and Zoning Board may grant a special permit for greater density up to a maximum of 1 dwelling unit per 3,000 feet for conversion of an existing building to a 2-family or multifamily dwelling, provided the conversion substantially preserves the exterior of the building deemed a significant building under certain bylaws in conjunction with the Historical Commission. So, right now, in that residential district, so where this document is proposing 1 dwelling unit, you can think of it as, could be 1 house, could be 1 apartment, per 10,000 square feet. So if you have a house on 22,000 square foot lot, for example, you could make it a duplex, or you could make it possibly 2 single-family homes, or you could, then the 3,000, and again, 3,000 might be a bit aggressive. We haven't really talked about this as a board, and we have to kind of go back and look at each parcel and see what makes sense.
Is that 3,000 square feet of land?
Land area, yeah, land area. So, that's why I think that's a bit aggressive, I think, and,
Current zoning is for basically.
40,000.
Right, 40,000.
Right.
But if I understood correctly, there's something in there that talks about 10,000 square feet as well.
So because that's the proposal. Right now it's 40,000. So think of it. If you take this district, how are you gonna, if you want to increase, if you want to create if you want to increase diverse housing, how can you do it? You could go to smaller lots. People, you could create some smaller homes in there. You could do mixed use, mixture of residential and commercial. Or you could try to do, multifamily, 2, 3, 4 units in a house. Or you could keep it as, obviously you could just keep it also as a single family. The nod at the end, and again, I have issues with the 3,000 feet, but that was just kind of put that in there. And the board, this is our first discussion of having just received these on Sunday. Our thought was, there's a great makings of a historic district out there. Some buildings are in there closer to their original form more than others. So the thought wouldn't it be nice if we could get, offer an incentive in the form of more density or, an extra dwelling unit to.
Or tax breaks.
Well, I think that's the opposite. That's beyond our purview.
Yeah, I know, but I
But to be honest, think about it. I get it. Everyone wants to come up and be, we don't want any more houses. But where in the town of Easton, where are we going to get young families? Where are we going to put our empty nesters? Where are we going to get people to inject? You always want to continue to grow to some degree as a town. We've done a good job of moderating. And we're coming out of the master plan that was all about diversified housing. Now, a lot of folks have said, okay, we've had our fill of big multifamily housing. We need to, so that's, for example, the Foundry site. That's our first try. That's our first shot at small single-family village. Capped 1,700 square feet and 2 bedrooms, right? Because not everybody wants to be in a condominium, and thought would be, okay, maybe there's a lot of empty nesters that would head there. Maybe some small families too, or just folks that just want a small, quarter-acre parcel, put out their fire pit, their patio, not have too much to maintain, but still want a little,
So if I could just take advantage of that little breath you took.
Cut me off at any point.
No. Well, I'm not sure if you heard that it was the proposed density is 1 dwelling unit for 10,000 square feet. Is this note of going from 1 dwelling unit for 3,000 square feet was the density bonus that Greg was speaking of earlier. It was if you have an existing home that you wanted to convert and substantially preserve the exterior of it because it was deemed to be a significant historic resource, then you could possibly go to creating more units within the building. It was a way to get the restoration monies in.
Can I speak just briefly for a second? Again, I appreciate Greg and Connor having reached out to us to let us know, because we would not otherwise have known what was going on here, so we really are very appreciative of it. And one of the things our group found was that the town really extended themselves to work with us on the sewer project, and people had a really good experience. I have a concern that, given where things are with what's being considered now, sometimes there's a tendency to try to confirm what's now being put into writing. Our group is just now having an opportunity to hear about these things. I am hopeful that as the Planning and Zoning Board is hearing and addressing these things, that we will truly have a seat at the table. We have 175 members in our group, active group, residential and business. Not everybody's gonna have the same opinion on everything, so we're gonna try to keep folks informed. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have a seat at the table as you're considering these issues going forward and the impact. I mean, by way of example, especially for those of us who live right in the middle of the residential, the Furnace Village Historic District, you've got to talk about how does that jive with, the diverse housing when you're putting into a historic district. I understand you want to find areas to put housing and so forth, but we would ask, as you're explaining these changes and so forth, that hopefully we can be involved in the process to be consulted going forward. Greg has already offered to come speak to our group. We've done similar with Rick Lincoln when he was coming to our group, and we had about 50 or 60 members to show up to hear about his project. Folks found it very, very helpful, and it makes folks more comfortable when they're considering potential changes if they feel like they've had some involvement along the way. So we're asking for that.
If, I know you can speak to this quite eloquently, but by coming tonight, you're getting the very first look with the planning board as to what was proposed by the consultant. It's not even a complete product yet. And so she's coming back on February 3rd, and by coming tonight and getting a chance to look at this PDF and get some initial thoughts, we are hoping to get your initial thoughts to the consultant. So when she's here on February 3rd and we can have a more fulsome conversation, you'll be coming in informed. So tonight was to get initial reactions from people, and the presentation you're talking about and the real discussion is next week.
Okay, and we'll put the word out to our group. I sent out an email blast yesterday to about 175 of our members to let them know that a few of us would be here tonight. We'll report back, and that there would be additional meetings. And I appreciate things. I think it's helpful for the consultant to hear directly from folks who are potentially impacted, not just the residential, the business folks as well. And what we'll endeavor to do is to get the word out to our folks so that they stay informed and they stay involved in the process. I appreciate that.
So if you want to try to read this, you can. Or you can just wait and get a full presentation.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, Dale, I sent this to you as soon as I had it.
Right.
And this is, all our meetings are open public hearings, and, we'll be working on this at every meeting we have. We meet every 2 weeks, although we have an extra meeting for this on the 3rd. And that's why tonight we probably seem a little disjointed, because unfortunately, like most people, we like to get things a week or two ahead of time so we can properly review them and digest them. But we weren't allowed to do that. This just came in, so we really haven't. If I had my druthers, I would have just talked about this as a board tonight so we could present better to you guys. But at the same time, at least you can hear what we're thinking. And I'll just say this: forget about the quantities for a second. The thought, I'm on a few boards in town, and I'll go on all night long, so you guys can just tell me to be quiet. But all I'm trying to do is explain to the public on TV what we're trying to do. And we, or at least I think we as a board, for the last 5 or 6 years, chose creating these walkable neighborhoods, because we really do believe that's where we're going in the future. There's no way that our kids' generations are going to be able to, they're not going to spend on houses, not going to be able to spend on houses what we have. And you see in Easton right now, and not, a spec house down and dirty, no bells and whistles, is $900,000. And that's because of the price of land, and that's because of the price of building, as building code continues to just evolve at a very aggressive, expensive clip. So we're trying to, and then you think everything's changing, everything has been Amazon Prime, and it can't just be, you only have so many restaurants, right? It's still a tough business. So what are the services besides
nail salons, we seem to have plenty of them. What are services? Let's do some forward thinking. Will that community, or how there's a community work centers or shared workspaces in the city? Will those come out this way eventually? Maybe that's a way to start filling some of these strip malls that are kind of, or maybe not. Maybe that won't work. But we try to think out of the box a little bit. And when Route 106, just like 138, at one point was a vibrant highway. Prior to the highways, and then over time, you get into that transition. There's houses that stay there. There's a little bit of commercial. Well, how can we create a more cohesive working organism as a neighborhood that can benefit Easton and can benefit the neighborhood? Why do we love Easton? It really goes back to all those gifts we were given by the Ameses, the architecture and the open space, the parks, and through the last 30 or 40 years, how the 4,000 plus acres of open space that we've created. For example, a big part of one of the benefits of the compact neighborhood coming up, not just the light, not just a new housing type. It's going to really help connect sort of Easton's Emerald Necklace. We have all those trails that go through. There's going to be a cordoned off public parking area there to access the trails, to access the waterways. So we're trying to, and conservation's done a great job the last few years trying to a lot of people don't know the tremendous natural resources we have out there to enjoy. The Bay Circuit Trail is right there. So we're looking, okay, how can we create some? There's only X number of lots. There's 71 lots, I believe, in this district. And how can we? We're not looking to tap everything out. We're not looking to, create sprawl. We're looking to create something that goes with what Easton is, a special place. The traffic's going to continue. There's nothing Easton's going to be able to do about it. It's going to continue to grow. I live right up Aquanicut. I'm very familiar with that traffic. So we're going to, get deeper into this document. It talks about the buildings getting closer to the street for traffic calming. So we can create some streetscape, get the parking off of the front, put it in the back, have some outdoor dining. There's minimum open space areas in here. There's ideas to combine some of the lots because some of these lots are very small. Maybe do some little access roads in the back, similar to what's that one that used to go to the old Walgreens. So we're looking to create a document that is creative, and hopefully, and I'll say this to the board, there's two ways really to do things like this from a zoning standpoint. By right, so if you have X square feet and X frontage, if you meet these, you can do whatever's in here. I disagree with the consultant this way, and I don't want to speak for Robert, but I still think we should do what we've been doing the last few years. I think we should do it as a special permit, because that allows us to make sure the applicant creates the special, areas, environments that we're trying to go for, and also make sure the public has a say. If it's just by right, I don't know how many of you were here for the whole library, but they got a building permit or foundation permit 6 months ago by right. But a lot of people look at, wow, that's really tough on the library. And it was just because they had a special permit. Granted, it was just for the driveway, but that's the only reason we even found out about it. So going by special permit allows us to create a whole public process where we can really hear from the neighbors, hear from the neighborhoods, or hear from the residents. It doesn't have to be just a neighbor. So.
And if it makes, a lot of our group was actually in attendance at the visioning charrette that was done back in October, I think, in Olmsted Richardson. So a lot of folks, I think, are really excited about making this a more walkable village neighborhood and not having it just as a highway coming through. So I hope I don't want to be misconstrued in the sense of it. It's just really would like to have a seat at the table as you folks are considering things going forward, and we can assist in the process of getting the word out to a lot of folks who are immediately impacted, so they're not just finding out about it later, showing up at town meeting, finding out, or complaining after the fact. So I hope we can partner with you in terms of working forward on these things.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
if you have the PDF of this draft of the zoning, skip all the references to the zoning code, because those have to be updated. But there's a few basic outline of what you're looking at.
The purposes, what are you trying to achieve? What is it you want this neighborhood to look like? So you want anything that you want to speak to. What's the goal? What's the vision for that neighborhood? That's there in section 971. Then the sub-districts, which you spoke to already. The boundary of the sub-district is an extremely important thing. Where is the maximum density of the Eastman Street area versus the medium density of Depot Street? Where are those boundaries meant to be so that you keep the residential area intact? That's good input provided. The site plan review is one way she describes as for us to do things as of right, and it talks about perhaps having guidance documents prepared specifically for this. Then you get to 9.4, which speaks to the dimensional requirements. The large density of Eastman and Depot come first, and then residential comes second. There's a use table in the back, which describes what uses are allowed, and there's two columns next to the uses. One is the two anchoring commercial mixed-use areas, and then the second column is the residential. If you see an N, it's either allowed, which would be a yes, allowed by right. It's an N, meaning it's prohibited, or it's a special permit, which is identified by the Planning and Zoning Board. The way she has it written, single-family residential buildings would not be allowed in the two outer districts, but certainly allowed in the residential area. Two-family conversions are special permit in the residential area, and two-family conversions are not allowed in the outer districts the way she's written it. Mixed use is encouraged. Multi-use dwellings are encouraged in the two outer areas. Bed and breakfasts are allowed, mixed use are allowed, retail is allowed.
That's
by
in the
special
residential area
permit.
you're talking about now, right?
Residential.
Including bakeries and delis
Yes.
and so forth,
Yes,
right?
that's allowed
Within anywhere within the residential area?
by special permit.
So including South Street on top in this historic district? that
At
put a deli?
presently that's what it says.
Okay.
South Street's not in the district, just that one large parcel.
Is
Just
the
a couple
district,
corners.
does the district go down to,
It shows it there.
down here?
I had
Shows it
understood,
here.
this is the residential area up here.
Yeah,
This is South Street, the lower part, the upper part up here. And so that's something we'd also
That's
have some
boundary.
clarification
This-
on.
this-
that's Foundry, that's south,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, south goes.
That hashed
south
area
goes
is not the
north
district.
as well.
No.
I understand,
Okay.
is this brown, is this dark
No.
line?
No, that's not what we changed last time.
So, do you wanna mark on that plan, because she does not have that?
We had like that
Yeah,
photo.
only-
Oh, that
I gave
one,
it all,
yeah.
let's,
That
yeah.
one,
So what is that?
that's, thank you.
The proposed district, there's nothing final yet, but remember when I talked about how,
Right.
Yeah, 'cause the PDF didn't identify what the boundaries of the districts
Do
were.
we have that?
So maybe that was part of the confusion on our end.
Do we have that in?
yeah, I gave you copies of that last week.
And is that something that can be publicly available as well?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Okay.
So the PDF that you have isn't correct.
Well,
No.
it doesn't define the district.
You shouldn't have a map. What I sent you, she didn't
Yeah,
attach
we
a
didn't,
map.
right.
She did not.
Right, her map was gonna be based on this, but,
Right, no, that's, again, it's just, so, my apologies if I'm
you're
misunderstanding, but I saw, it talked about the residential transition district, and then I see what's zoned for residential within the
Yeah.
district, but you're looking at a more narrow
Correct.
confines, okay.
The red outlined areas is what matters.
yes.
Is the
why don't
current
you send that
proposed,
And that includes the larger parcel that's like the
We'll
16
get
acre
this scanned
bucket
and
property.
sent, we'll get this scanned and sent to you.
Okay, great, thank you.
We might have it, but I'm not sure where it is.
That's a big
Thank you.
So,
That way I know what we're talking about. Okay.
the boundaries are really the most important thing.
You think?
Come to the next meeting.
So, does
and
anybody, so do you guys, I know this
Yeah,
kind of,
right.
so do you guys have any comments, questions, anything at this point, or do you wanna wait till the third?
The only, yeah, we can wait, I guess.
Let's talk, how about density, maximum residential density, page 3. How are those, what everyone think of?
For the 3,000?
I think the three, for me, the three's a bit tough.
I think it's a little bit much.
Yeah, I think
Right,
that's,
that's pretty dense.
yeah, well, that's not
Well, it
gonna.
was 2 over in, at the Village Business District, it was 2.
Wait, two
Right.
what?
2,000.
Right,
in
but
Village
that's,
Business-
but
and
that's completely,
very
that's
dense.
completely different. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
yeah,
So anyway, so the depot area, it says 1 dwelling unit per 5,000 square feet, right? That's
Right.
not that bad, so that's.
And Eastman's 2.5,
Yep,
I would
right.
guess. It also says minimum building height 2
So
stories.
depot is like 8 an acre,
For any new
Eastman 16 an
development.
acre. I mean,
And I think they mean just like
Well,
height,
don't
not
forget, so-
necessarily that it has
The
to be.
3,000 is not
Hey,
standalone.
so here, if you wanna talk about that, right, so,
yeah,
here's the thing. So maximum number of upper story multifamily units allowed in the depot district is
Right.
10.
Uh-huh.
It's 20 in Eastland. So
Right.
that's a little more, it's a little dense, right? And then in the residential district, right now it's 10,000, what she's proposing is 10,000 per dwelling unit. So basically, 1 per quarter acre.
right, yeah.
Right.
And then if you and if you tie it into historical, 3.
Yeah.
Now, the 10, I'd rather, there's a discussion to have with the residents. I mean, all that discussion, but the 3, just for me, I was like, 3's a bit, yeah, it's, 3's too much. But,
Oh, that, yeah.
but could in some ways, maybe it was, you could say it was a placeholder. She was just looking to open up the
Oh,
discussion.
yeah.
And I wondered if the depot, Eastman, and residential should all be 37 and 3 stories.
Well, that's what it shows.
Well, that's,
Well, Eastman has 45.
well, it's got 45, yeah, I mean, but I think that, I'd like to hear her explanations for that, so.
That says subject to a special permit if you go 4
Or,
stories.
I mean, maybe
anyways.
this is, I thought we were looking for maintaining more of that residential character still, which would not just be in terms of like the massing, or the size of the actual units, but also in the vertical
Yeah, you're talking about
massing.
residential unit, right?
Right,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm just saying, I feel
I mean, I
like
would
there's
keep
no
that-
differentiation, other than in the Eastman area, it goes up 1 story, but otherwise, like, do we
the
want-
residential, I'd go to 35, keep it to our existing
Yeah,
zoning.
right.
There's
That's
no
fine.
reason to change the
And
height.
they'll be subject to the other the sidelines.
Right,
I
right.
think so they wouldn't be, yeah. Right.
Can I ask another question, just, that I think will help me in terms of, because one of the roles I'm having is trying to get the word out to our group so folks come to an understanding of what this is, what's entailed. You guys are obviously a lot more familiar with all the details, how these things work. This is my first zoning and planning zoning meeting. Would you anticipate the consultant will provide you with basically a table of changes to identify, for example, under your use things that are part of the PDF document, what has actually changed? If not, I'm going to go do it myself and look at the old ones and then compare with the new. I want folks to know what is being proposed, not only the purpose, but what is actually anticipated to change so people can make informed decisions.
Well, I'll do that for you, that's easy.
Yeah, that's-
She won't do that, but we'll do that for you,
Okay,
because it's.
that would be
it's
helpful
piece of
for
cake.
us, so folks have an understanding.
This is
of
what
each
was.
Yeah,
district.
right.
This is how now it's changed, both in terms of your density and also your use
Yeah.
things.
So just give you, let's just keep it for now, let's just talk about that residential district,
Yep.
okay? Because it's a little more complex than the commercial. Right now, 40,000 square feet for a lot, okay, an acre, builder's acre as they call it, and one house. But with a special permit, and because this is what's throughout the town, but with a special permit through this board, you could have a duplex. So you could, if you looked into multifamily, there are some other special permit ones, but it was sort of written through the years. Again, this is pre-sewer. It was written long before any of us were on these boards to pretty much not allow multifamily. It was possible to do, but once you looked at it, it just wasn't possible to do unless you bought up half the time. So basically, if you think of it that way, it's one dwelling unit, one house for every 40,000 square feet. Now there are lots in this district, just like every other district in town, that are under 40,000 square feet. That's what's called pre-existing non-conforming. So if you, let's say you were gonna take down the house, and rebuild a new house, you would, you'd have to go through the ZBA, but depending on exactly what you're doing, but sometimes the building, there's a little leeway, but if, let's, you'd have to go through because you're a smaller lot, and basically, okay, if you're not encroaching on the setbacks any more than you're allowed to do it. So what's changing in the residential district is we're looking to propose to increase or decrease the lot size needed for dwelling units. Part, and we have to, so part was, I was looking at one parcel and I said, boy, that would make a great compact neighborhood. Quarter acre lot, limit the size of the house, nice historical look, and affordable to transitioning elders and young families.
This would be the 16-acre Buckley property.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen. It's just to make the possibility, just to get people thinking, to talk about. Because there's okay, we have sewer. There's because you really couldn't develop. And someone's going, quick math. Wait a minute. So you want to do, well, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to get tapped out that way. Because first of all, you have to put in infrastructure. You have to put in drainage. Maybe there's wetlands out there. Maybe that never wants to happen. But there's potential for that, and for an increase in density like that, through a special permit where it can be thought out, you don't just plunk the houses down. There's thoughts to landscaping, like I said, and certainly historical given that neighborhood. That's one of the gems of Easton, I think, for a neighborhood. But boy, what a opportunity for a fantastic project that really fits the needs of the future. And it's right on one of our major thoroughfares. One of our charges as the planning board is to help maintain Easton's rural character. So people always want to scream for the audience, well, don't let them build anything. Well, no, people have land rights. If you have 40,000 square feet, and you're allowed to do things by right. But so trying to put a mechanism in there that we can create a diverse, a new housing type that's in demand, that's needed, desperately needed, but yet can increase the property value, the enjoyment, and everything else of that neighborhood and thus of Easton. Then a couple of weeks ago, we did a meeting here, and like I said, I took pictures of every lot. So you think in that same area, there's a couple lots there that have gorgeous houses. They have some big lots. And I asked the question here, I said, okay, guys, if we did something, 4 units per acre or 2 units per acre, anything a little denser than what's allowed now, in theory, you might see a house here. It would have to be designed and scaled, go through a special permit. But do we want to do that, or do we want to keep these vistas? So these are the questions that we wrestle with as a board, and the questions we throw out to you guys, because it's your neighborhood. And so that's what we're trying to figure out here, is how to balance, how to create some more living opportunities in Easton. Not looking to tap it out, because we're not, again, we're talking pretty small number of parcels, and many of the parcels are small, or because of their existing situations, really, you wouldn't see anything changing. But we're just, it starts as brainstorming, and then you look at it and you validate it and you start to put it in written form. And then, like I said, then we had this historical idea. So Judy, our Judy Barrett, the planning consultant, came up with the idea of, hey, if they tie it into historical, maybe a density bonus. Oh, sure. And then I think she said maybe another unit or two. What does a unit mean, right? I mean, we're talking, but. So that's where that is 3,000, every 3,000 feet. So, and I know I was like, oh, I think that's probably a bit too much, but that's, again, that's why we hold these meetings, so we can talk about it and discuss. So that's it from a residential standpoint. That's really what we're looking at.
We'll take the existing use table and the existing dimensional table, and we'll throw what currently is allowed in a residential district as a column in this side. It's easy enough.
Yeah, I think having that comparison will be helpful. I'm
Yes.
looking for something that I can distribute to our group so folks have some understanding of what all of this means, because people aren't going to be taking this and then going back and flipping to the old zoning regulations, right? I'm a lawyer, I have a hard enough time, I know how difficult those things are, so if they're complex, I'm trying to boil it down so people have an understanding of what is proposed, why it's being proposed. I think our group generally was in favor of the walkable neighborhood thing. I think where there might be a little bit of pushback on things is, it is very much a historic district, so there's gonna be a concern for people to protect that as a historic district, and as you're having these two things, whether they meld together, they can accomplish both. And I'm just curious, as a personal matter, since I live across the street from the property, and we used to have the benefit of looking out, seeing the horses across the street that Buckley's used to have. I understood it was gonna be developed at some point in time. What's anticipated in terms of the access for something like that? Because I know your proposal minimizes the amount of frontage, I guess, that's required and so forth, but by way of example, we have a nice quiet street on South Street now, in the upper part, on the right angle there. What would be anticipated in terms of access for that parcel if you're then having, if it's 16 acres and you're talking 4 per acre? It's a huge impact on this historic neighborhood. Where are these folks gonna come and go from? How do they access? Is it from Beaver Dam? Is it from South Street? Is it from 106?
To be determined. You know, I mean, right now I look at say it's from South Street because that's where it has frontage. But keep in mind, even if it's passed in this form, it's never going to be 64 houses. There's road. I mean, we're not looking to, that's not already
34
developed.
50. It's still a huge impact on what's now a very quiet neighborhood.
Well, it might turn out that might not be the best fit for this district, anyways. Depending on how.
And that's just my personal opinion. That's not
Of course it is. You live across the street from it. I get it. I've been in the city plenty.
I want to go sway back.
But keep in mind, just keep in mind that, walkable neighborhoods don't happen if we don't create places for people to live and walk. And we all love history, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a member of the Historical Commission. But, it would be nice to see some of the houses get closer back to where they were historically. Without any incentive, many of those houses are nowhere near their original historical form. And so they're not. So the thought is, okay, well, maybe if we create incentive, boy, under that, it doesn't take much to get it back. And if a new unit was created, an addition or a small house, with historical detail, you can create new history.
I happen to like the idea of smaller condensed neighborhoods. I mean, what's being proposed also within 50 yards of my house, the other new neighborhood. You're talking about a lot of 60 some over there and now over here, and plus all the other properties. You have two obstacles, I think, in town that just from what I can see from the chatter out there, which is one, the traffic, because you're adding all these extra cars going, and number two, the schools. And I think folks haven't got the word out to the schools. People think it's 14,000 per extra student you have, which I don't think is the right way to look at it, but there's a lot of folks who view it that way, that there's too much housing coming in and so forth. I'm not one of those people who shares that view, but just sort of an FYI, I think there's a undercurrent of folks out there who have concerns about that.
Yeah, I think we have 40B to thank for that. In terms of if you pull off the 40B projects, there really hasn't been much growth in this town. We don't build lots of new homes. Now and you think of different housing types. Now we had a large increase in our apartments, large scale apartments, and you can come down on a lot of different opinions on that. Those are didn't have anything to do with this board. This 40B, we don't even get a sniff on it. But all I know is I would like to create, as someone who's taken an interest and devoted quite a bit of time on this, I would like to create other housing opportunities so that folks don't have to leave town. Because if your kids grow up and you have that 4,000 square foot house or that 3,000 square foot house with those 4 bedrooms, you don't need it. Well, okay, maybe not everybody wants to go to a condo. Not everybody wants to go to an apartment. And then coming up, our kids' generation, where are they going to be? Where are they getting $800,000 or $900,000? And that's where houses are with land prices in town. So the only way to create truly small A affordable housing for young families or
for empty net, or for anybody, you know, is to get that land price down. And people aren't gonna reduce their land prices, but, you know, so you take, and right now, a piece of land on East is $3 or $3.50, right? So if you could third that, half that, quarter that, with what building costs are, you can try to create something. And when you analyze this too, when you look, we're not talking huge numbers in terms of not looking to add, we're not adding 300 houses, you know, they're much smaller. We're just trying to figure out a way, and maybe the flavor's not there for, or maybe the parcels aren't there, but we're just trying to figure out in a very small district, is there a way that we can improve this neighborhood?
Can you identify for me what you expect the timeline to be? I think you guys are working back up against the next town meeting, right? In terms of that was what's expected. And when is that scheduled for? Is that March, April?
Town meeting's May 18th.
And we're preparing for a public hearing on this zoning in March 16. So we are, and so we're trying to get all the ideas put together for something that'll go out for real comment, you know, on March 16th. So anything that happens before that is.
Yeah, what I'm hopeful is that we can assist in the process of gathering feedback from our group and driving it in this direction as you're building the thing, as opposed to it comes out, folks didn't feel like they
So
had.
February 3rd, if there's a chance.
I will get the word out.
And now we found this, and I think that the Eastman district, maybe you guys think the Eastman district kind of defines if the red boundary is a proposal, does the Eastman district define itself pretty well?
I'd say it does.
Yes.
And there's nothing you'd want to add to that. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Then Depot Street certainly defines itself well. The question is, where's that transition on the eastern side? Where do you separate the medium density depot from the residential core of this district? And if anybody wants to throw anything out now, we can put it into the first draft of this map, because
Well, it could just
really
be where
we don't have
it
it.
could be where the houses start already. I mean,
Right,
it's kind of pretty clear where houses start already. Yeah.
There's two cul-de-sacs now for the condominiums, so it would be over to the east of that. It would be like here.
Here, I'll get the ball rolling. It's right here. Oh, there's your residential.
That's right where I have my, you see that? Is that makes sense?
Can I see that again, Greg? I'm sorry.
Right there. You see that you see the arrow going back and forth?
Right.
Yeah.
But you get commercial properties all in there as well.
Right, that's what I'm proposing. We may have to tweak it a little.
Yeah.
But
So what do you think? What do you think?
Well, you've got the plaza that you just put into the residential district, and then there's the dentist office, which is mixed use in the residential district.
yeah, but I started at the dentist's office, but I look at that as it's residential too. It's a house. They turned into a dentist. I mean, it's not a plaza. It's not a modern plaza.
Right.
And home businesses.
I look at what the structure is.
Yeah.
Home businesses
It's a house
and
that has a
offices
chair.
would still be allowed.
Yeah.
Where would you put it?
I don't know, I have a couple of thoughts. I want to think about it a little bit.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah, I'd rather do. I don't want to get too specific tonight, because this is out of the norm for us too. We don't really come out of the gate. We usually, unfortunately, you know, we're getting a late start on this one because of things out of our control. Not a late start, right? A big break in the middle. Doesn't mean we're not going to do just as good of a job, because this, you know, we're really talking about 2 pages of dimensional.
Right.
So, you know what, you guys are here tonight. You get it back to your group. You're here on the 3rd, or we're here on the 3rd. You can join us. You know, easily by March we can have this figured out. And you know what? Because if it's a big protest and we don't do anything, we're just done with it. We move on. Right. We're trying to create, but you know, to get all the amenities of a walkable neighborhood through mass grants and stuff, you need to show that you've tried to improve things, and that's what we're trying to do.
We've generally been pretty good about getting our folks to keep their pitchforks at the door.
It's like to go to things, you know, by some of the neighbors.
Well, planning's tough because everybody, you know, change and everybody wants to, but you know what? But, you know, and usually we tell people they have land rights because people are usually reacting to something that's happening where they're always told it would be wooded. But here, we're just trying to have some creative vision to improve an area. Not that it's not a nice area, but going forward, you know what I'm saying? So take advantage of the sewer.
Hi, my name's Mary Landry. I live on 15 Pequannock. And I have some questions about the hashed area of the map, the outside of the red borders. It says proposed removal from district. I help convey information to the Furnace Village group, and people are going to ask, what does that mean exactly? For example, I live currently in one of the parcels that's proposed for removal from the district. So what does that mean to me?
So, this was not intended for public.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that, but it's going to be a talking point.
Right, well, no,
And we
the
want to
original-
help provide clarity.
The original version of this was
Yeah.
right here, right? This was a plan that was created by Stephanie Dennison. And all she did, showed the outline of her proposed district. And it was she just threw it out there.
Is it the
And
sewer
This is the sewer district,
It's the sewer
exactly.
district.
Then if you look further, there's these other pochets, this hatch, it has nothing to do with what we're doing. They're either
Yeah.
historic districts or,
It's the
moot
historic
point,
district.
doesn't matter what we're doing. So I looked at that and I like succinctness. I know it sounds ironic, doesn't it? But sometimes I get Gabby to try to explain. But I'm like, wait a minute, we have ponds and we have all this green space. I don't want to include spots that are never going to be part of this district in it. So went through and it's, so we started, so here we got rid of this counter development because there's no, I don't see any
You don't
realistic
develop it.
situation where that's going to be changed for anything, right? So we pulled that out. And then, up in here, the ponds, and then going up Pequannock. Once you get past what I call the Keach building, the old, I think it was the post office.
Post office building?
It's all residential. So there's no, same thing with South Street. It's a beautiful neighborhood. And I thought, we really focused on trying to improve what was right on the main strip. So that's why.
Yeah, so-
and we can change it. This was
Yeah.
just my idea, which we started.
So for example, I live in a historic home. It's a single family. I'm currently excluded from this district. What if I wanted to add a second unit in my home to make it a dwelling? All those things you just talked about in historical structures.
Right now.
Would I be, if this district was proposed as is, would I be excluded from that type of opportunity?
No, you, like every other property in town, or any other residential, I should say, single-family residential property in town, can come to the planning board and apply for a special permit for a duplex. That's in our bylaws now. There's no guarantee you'll get it,
Right.
But you can do that.
So just generally within this, this will make it easier for folks to knock down properties and then put them multifamily. So a developer comes in, buys a property. This will make it easier for them to do that, right?
Within the red area.
As compared to what exists now, yes. But not just multifamily. It doesn't, the purpose of this isn't, there's lots of options here. Because what's multifamily? On the not the residential district, the two other districts right now is proposed, the Eastman Street districts up to 20 units per acre. In the Depot Street district, up to 10 per acre, on top of a commercial development, so a mixed use.
But the way it's proposed, if I'm correct, the way that it's proposed now, anywhere within this area up here, you could have bakery, deli, restaurants, all the way up and through here too, right? That's the way it's currently written.
If you want to just cut that back thing off and we don't have to talk about it anymore, that's okay with me, but.
Well, we don't, but
let's focus, that's
right, but
kind
this is
of
what folks are gonna wanna know about, like how these things impact
Yeah.
everything in terms of what's being
I mean,
considered.
if that's gonna be like a
what's-
distraction, let's just look at what we're trying to accomplish and not necessarily get into a bunch of
So look at
development
I
back
want to say
there.
this to the folks at home and folks on the board here, because I'm the one who put that in there. I've lived on Pequannock for 32 years, a long time. And hey, I love open space, I love keeping, there's nothing we're doing says that has to be changed. But, as someone who has listened to the charge of this town at hundreds of meetings, and listened to the desires of the, if we, you know, there is an opportunity there to create, you know, something besides just typical sprawling subdivision, and it wouldn't, you know, that, yeah, you know, again, when you get into the reality of that land with setbacks and wetlands and you're not anywhere near 64. But maybe through the part of this, I said, let's put it in there because it's a litmus test. Let's see what happens. People might say, hands off, we don't want to touch it. Then we'll take it out. It's done.
The reason why I'm addressed it just as an example is because you've got things blocked by residential and there are certain uses permitted in accordance with that. So
That's a good point, though, right? Yeah.
I think the intent might be maybe you do things a little differently in different areas, like right along 106, as opposed to an area tucked like that. But right now, it's grouped in a way.
It's not realistic that we're going to have a, you know, it's not going to be a subdivision of, you know, bakeries and
No, I would think so.
shops anyways. That'd be the last thing you could ever really imagine, but I suppose it would be possible if, you know.
No, I understand. I'm not, you know, I wouldn't anticipate anything like that would happen.
And this is a good example, and I'd say this for my board as much as I do the public. This is a good example why I think special permit is the way to go. Because of those 71 properties, we're not going to create 71 sub-districts because every property has it. Granted, that one a little more than others, but you know, it has its own unique features. But if it behooves us to, if we come up with a that's written out, okay, yeah, on 106 you can do, well, it's just on when someone comes to us for a special permit on that large parcel and they want to put in a bakery, we could say no. It's a special permit, it's not by right. And it really allows us, and who knows, you know what, the residents in this, your 171, remember 175? 5 years out, when you really gotta see some changes on this, right? If potential, you know, you may have a 50% changeover, right? You know, and you know, so it's always the benefit of the special permit is you always get this, you always have that check-in. And you're always able to take the pulse of the communities because things change. Right?
For what it's worth, a lot of those folks are, you know, in the condominiums, and they actually just felt like they were much more included in the neighborhood now by virtue of like Connor extending and having trustees come in to meet with them to deal with the recalculation of the sewer things and so forth. So they actually feel a lot more connected to the town now. And I think that's been the general sense of the group overall through this whole process, and that's why I think being invited now is very helpful. So we put the message out. You know, thank you to Connor, thank you to Greg for inviting us. We're keeping you informed as to what's going on. And just, you know, as part of the reason I was asking about the timing is we'd like to be able, you know, in a way where we're gathering a week's time between now and Monday is not a lot of time to be gathering information and feedback from a group of 175 diverse people out there. So
you're really getting ready for March 16th.
Well, think of Monday. Is it a Monday? Do we find it a Monday? It's a working session. It's what it is. It's same as tonight, but you know, with and again, my point was, and I agree with everything you said. I wasn't trying to counter that. I was just saying that same process that you just described continues in perpetuity with the special permit.
is it more helpful for your meeting on Monday? I mean, we can, if we put the word out, folks will show up in hordes, or is it really just you want to make it more of a working thing so we try to solicit feedback from people, right? So you don't want 50 or 60 people showing up here and shouting.
Unless you know, everybody has, you know, their listening ears on and only talks when they have something important to say.
Everything we have to say is important.
You know, I think it's I'm going to be honest, right? I'm going to be honest with you.
I just wanted to ask you.
I think a good strategy, where you asked me about doing a meeting.
Yeah.
I think from where we're at, if I may, just from where we're at as a board, I think a good strategy is to have a meeting on the 5th. Third, whatever. Have some come up. Because we know it's going to happen at 60, right? You know, we're going to, and then you know, but you guys would have more time to digest this. Maybe spoke to some folks. We've had some time to digest this. Listen to our consultant, and then after that, okay. And then we tweak some things, and then you know, then we, whether it's a meeting. We go
sometime
to
the week or two following the third.
Then I think we can do it. You can see tonight we're kind of like, you know.
But our folks really appreciated when Rick Lincoln and Walter came to speak to our group about those issues. Not everybody was agreeing on all issues, but they felt like they were consulted on it. And I extended to our group what you had said, that you had offered to come, and I think that goes a long way. So sometime the idea would be to do that sometime within the week or two following the 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should probably for Monday at least have a map with the 3 sections, and that's all that's on the map.
Yeah.
Thought we would have it tonight. Believe me, I have a degree in architecture, I didn't want this up on the big screen.
I actually,
Sharpie, let's go.
not to dwell on the Buckley parcel, but I have a question about that, which I anticipate people in our group are gonna wonder about, like, that was excluded from the sewer district. And so, but now you're including it in the business.
They were not assessed.
They were not assessed.
I think they're part of the.
I assumed it was because, because it was.
No, they were not assessed. They were not.
They have no sewer.
Let me add something onto that that may be relevant as well.
Which side was sorry?
It's the 16 acres.
Oh, that one was not assessed, okay.
Yeah, that was actually excluded from the district for the sewer, but something to think about as well is the town reserved, I think, no more than 20% capacity for the sewer. You've got 165,000 gallons per day on average that the town is authorized to send to Mansfield. And you've got to give some thought to these things too. There's a limited number of the privileges that can be sold by the town to tie into the sewer. So the way it worked was basically an 80-20 split, with 80 being assessed to the existing residents, 20% was reserved for anticipated additional development on that. I don't know how that breaks down in terms of residential units and so on and so forth, but just something to think about.
I have a meeting with the town administrator tomorrow morning, I'll ask him, because I've asked that specific question a number of times, and I've been told it's not an issue at all, because I'm talking about what about potential full build on them?
Well, that's fine.
Because anytime when you do zoning,
That's the 20, right?
you have to base it on, so, has anybody done the math? Right, exactly.
The total capacity is 165,000 gallons a day the town purchased from Mansfield as part of that situation, and then when they did the assessment for this project, 80% of it was basically assigned to the folks who are currently getting the assessments, 20% was retained by the town. That was the $5 million basically the town put in for that to anticipate future. I don't know how that breaks out in terms of the actual parcels and how many will be available.
Yeah, this is pretty informal, but going forward in the meetings, we're gonna have to start using the microphone because it just won't be fair to the hundreds of people watching TV.
Yeah.
Like that.
Thousands.
Well,
And the Buckley
But, yeah.
estate was not included
Yeah.
in
we
that
can probably just
assessment,
pass it around a
so.
little bit, but, yeah.
Is that the only parcel that's not?
I was, again, I'm not,
Yeah.
I was,
Turn around and see.
it's a highlighted on that, I was told that was the sewer district, so.
No.
Yeah, that's
Oh, really?
that's
Yeah, that
true.
wasn't.
So that's why I put it in.
Yeah.
We'll
It was-
find out.
It is highlighted here, but
It's not in there.
they were not,
They
so
were
they,
not
they were not considered
Let's find out.
in the capacity, the plans for the capacity currently.
Also,
And I just want to jump back for a second before we get way off the track
Yeah.
with this parcel. Yeah, maybe I probably didn't, well, I did make myself, but if you look at compact neighborhood, the zoning that we have for it, there's a very large, in our flexible, there's a very large percentage of open space, and this is not gonna be 64 units, it's not gonna be anywhere near that. That is not our intention. Can't tell you how many, because we don't know the specifics of that land, it hasn't been evaluated. It's just, again, this is just the zoning standpoint. And to your point, if there is that much of a governor on the capacity, then that's gonna keep it in check anyways. But our intention isn't to mow that thing down. The intention was to create, in my mind, come up with an opportunity where we could create some small, historically minded homes to fit the needs of them.
Just one more. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just on the same topic. Is that the residence building in the Wilson Stop Plaza off of Depot Street? Is that in your red line?
Yeah.
Because they're not in the sewer project either.
Right there.
Right, but they're gonna be pretty soon.
No.
They have to
It
apply
stops.
for an
It stops.
privilege.
The sewer stops at the urgent care building.
Well, they can be in the district, but then the sewer is not.
Yeah, no, right, exactly, they can still be in the district.
Still be in the zoning district.
Right.
Along the lines of what the town is considering for other.
And they were in that map I was given.
Right.
Yeah, right, that's the last one on the map.
I mean, that would make sense.
But I would put them in there anyway.
Yeah.
Along the lines of what the town is considering for other sites or consideration for compact housing like this is, what about the horse farm at Pocahontas as well? Is that one, because that's a huge parcel.
This is the map, right? This is it so far.
Yeah, it's not on.
No, I understand that, but what I'm asking is when you're considering where you want to put more housing, in a condensed way, is that something that's also in the works in terms, because people are, we've always been concerned
Yeah, no,
about
that's a priority parcel
Clover Valley Farm,
Mhm.
best sunsets in Easton.
Right.
Drive by it 22 times a day.
Sunrises are nice too.
That is, has been, I've been on CPA for 10 years, I think, and that has always been one of the priority parcels. And if you think of that, that's about 130 acres. There are some potentially developable acres up in the Target neck of the woods. So there's been, but everything that you see from the farm going up pretty much is.
Does the town have a right of first refusal on that?
Yeah, 61A. So, that's, there's no plans for, because most of it, you really can't do anything from a development standpoint, but that's not why. We do like to have open space. We do believe in that, so. People, when they come in here and they think, oh, we think about zoning a building. No, we're here, we have to work with, land, open space is easy, but unfortunately, we can't buy it, the town can't buy every piece and leave it open. And so we try to find ways. I mean, we can look at parts of town and say, okay, our existing zoning isn't working or isn't serving the present day. I think there's areas that we can improve the conditions of.
Yeah, and my question was actually, I hope that CPC funds are ultimately used to preserve that, because that's a beautiful piece of land.
No, we've, that's.
Let's stick on the project here.
Yeah. Well, and was it
Good question, I know, but.
All right, so, I know it's getting late.
I was gonna say that if you thought that there was interest in,
Hold it, hold it, hold it.
I was just asking Mary that if she thought that neighbors or homes that also had some historic significance maybe would be interested in adjusting the line. I don't think anything is completely set in stone at this point, just as we talked about the possibility of that parcel that's not part of the sewer. Right now, it's obviously staying. I don't know for sure. We will ultimately keep it. I think we'd like to keep it, but I think the other vehicle is to look at what the uses are in that district. So like right now, Dale, you mentioned like, but so by right, in theory, there could be a bakery, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that is narrowed down so it's not so large, or maybe that line is adjusted so that, and the definition is adjusted so that it makes more sense.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful getting the feedback. And just to give you a little temperature reading out there, you may recall a town meeting when the diff came and our group showed up with 130 members, whatever it was, to in support of it. Neil and I got up and spoke, and after we spoke, actually the person in front of us commented, we was talking to Stephanie, and he basically said, if this helps those poor saps, we're for it. So in other words, there's a sense in town that this district has absorbed a lot with the Target, Avalon, and everything else. That's what we're dealing with. That's what I think is a temperature read in the town, that diff was passed unanimously. And it's because our group spoke in favor of it to help bring the cost down on the sewer. But that's a temperature read out there that everybody ought to just be aware of, that we've absorbed a lot already, with all of the traffic with Avalon and Target and everything else, and now the Foundry project going in, and now you're talking about this too.
So you view the Foundry project as a negative?
I'm personally in favor of it. There's a lot of concern from people that are just about additional traffic in the area, and I understand there's going to be a mitigation, but it's probably a couple of years out to put the traffic light and so forth.
It's going to go up during the construction.
That'll be
part of the
great.
deal.
Well, his construction.
But without that, you're not getting it.
Well,
he's 29,000 traffic. Two traffic.
Well, he's only had one access point now. I think not the two that he had.
Yeah, there's only one.
Why they put it?
He changed his plan.
Right.
Yeah.
The light, there's going to be a turning lane and lights at the Quantico. The only access point is ever been.
And that
That's
meeting,
Right.
and
Right.
that meeting is on February 18th.
For that plan, I'll get the word out, because I've been checking your agenda just to see if we can keep our folks. Okay, thank you. No, I think a lot of folks like the idea that it makes it more of a walkable neighborhood, more residential character for the neighborhood generally, but there's a huge concern on the traffic. My kids will not go out on Peconic, you can't take a left, you just can't get out, during the times of day, so they go up to Beaver Dam and around and over.
Or put a light in.
And the light will definitely help.
92 trips a day isn't gonna.
isn't gonna kill what is already 29,000.
It was a blessing when it was one way for a little while.
That's great.
We actually got out of our street.
Let's make 106 work.
Well, we're also hoping your son might use his bike.
Yeah, I'm the biker in the family, he doesn't do any biking, so I do though.
I think, Dale spoke to the success we had with all the issues we have with the sewer project. And I think it's very, very important that we're able to verbalize to the people in our group, whether it be residents, businesses, what's in it for me. With the diff, with the sewer project, it's gonna cost us $35,000. And okay, that's what's in it for me, and that's what mobilizes people either gets them for or against it. I think it's crucial that we're able to verbalize the what's in it for me to the people that live in the district. So when you look at the particular zoning change, like Mary mentioned, well, what about my house? I have a historic house. Why shouldn't I have the opportunity to be able to convert it? And I think that's, if we can verbalize what the zoning changes mean to our people, if we can somehow get that word out, that message, I think we'll get much better input and much clearer consensus. Because if we take this document and we give it to the people in our district, they're gonna look at it and say, no one's gonna read it. And no one's gonna understand. So we call it the elevator speech. It's like, this is what you can do now, this is what you're gonna do if it passes.
Right.
And it's very important that we're able to verbalize that. That people, whether it be a business owner, or a resident, or someone that's lived in the district for years, or someone that's gonna retire and wants to sell his house and wants to get the most money he possibly can when he goes into retirement, or someone who wants to develop a piece of property, that's what we need to be able to communicate to people. So
And the
whether
answer?
that's through us reading it and transferring that message, or you guys coming up with a bullet and talking point, that's very, very important to us.
And what we're trying to do, and hopefully with your guys' help, in coming up with the ideas, we're trying to, frankly, we're trying to increase your property value by improving the town. It's simple as that. But, look at,
And maintain quality of life for the people that live there.
improve it.
Yeah.
And something I mentioned to Connor in the past, I think the town needs to do a better job of communicating why this is not actually putting a huge burden on the schools. A lot of people think that there's so much emphasis on putting new housing in, not having commercial development, so forth. I'm not one of those people who agree that, but there's a lot of sentiment out there. And it's gonna be 14,000 per pupil or something like that. I don't know where these figures are coming from, but I think to get it past a town meeting, I think it's a hurdle to get over to get that message.
Yeah, I think it's been kind of too anecdotal, as in, it never really, these last 5 haven't really done anything to the school. And then you say, well, where are the numbers? They say, oh, well, it's good, you know what I mean? But we haven't actually seen like some data that just says the schools have not, aren't
They're
affected
down
by it.
200 students anyway, I mean, so there's room there, but
I mean,
there's
yeah.
a popular sentiment out there when people are gonna be hearing that there's more cluster housing on those. For those of us, who are paying attention on the Facebook chatter, which perhaps not relevant anyway, but
If you want to get depressed, that's where you go. You give $10,000 in free puppies, and by the 3rd thread, it's gone negative. So it doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Can I verbalize an idea? I don't know if this is the right forum. You guys can tell me. It's an idea that is different from, the usual options that we think about in terms of, we have housings, or we have restaurants, or we have. Right now, you're in a moment of opportunity where you're trying to come up with dynamic uses of this neighborhood. We are not the only suburban town that's challenged with this. If you can somehow harness that synergy and maybe somehow incorporate like a small business incubator kind of activity that would become a model for other neighborhoods, it's a way to, and I'm thinking human scale, such as like the maker movement. Like young people can then conceptualize that it's possible for them to jump into and be involved in a neighborhood in their hometown and not think that they have to go outside to the big city. If they see some sort of opportunity that's at a scale that they can imagine themselves jumping into, i.e. like the maker movements, like hands crafts, like small industrial welding,
You're talking to a
things like
woodchucker,
hobby things, stuff like that. That's one idea. There's many different types of small businesses that help help people to conceive
Well,
them
that's-
stepping into this kind of thing, and it removes the idea of like retail, which is perceived to be dying, but then there's like active retail as well. There's activity retail, but anyway, it's just another way of thinking about it. It's just introducing different kinds of small businesses that people can imagine themselves being interested in, and maybe it's a way to keep younger people in the community.
Well, that's what, I don't know if you caught it earlier, what I was saying before, because, the strip malls are changing, they're dying, retail's gone.
Right.
And that's gonna continue, unless all of a sudden, all the satellites are. And, so when I was talking about those communal workspaces, it's kind of the same thing.
Exactly.
You get a lot of different names.
Yeah.
They're commonplace in the cities now. And eventually, what happens in the cities tends to come out, I think some form of.
And if you
work
can
comes out.
harness that, business people who are currently centralized in Cambridge, the excitement around those incubator support systems, there's a lot of opportunity to do that in many different suburban
That's right.
towns.
Look at Easton. We have architectural gems. We have landscaping gems. We have some of the best parks. We have the most used state park in all of New England, not even Massachusetts. They filmed like 12 movies there all the time. We have lots of open space, becoming more and more connected as folks can now go online, you can lay out your own path and upload it. So that's what we're hand in hand with that. We're trying to create some creative housing solutions, not huge amounts. We'd like to, we're not going to be 40,000 people, but we need, And to your point, we meet with folks all the time, businesses existing, and we're pitching ideas like that. So we're trying to shine up this gem of ours a little bit all around, not just downtown, everywhere, to reach all these goals.
On behalf of our group, thank you for inviting us and reaching out. It is really appreciated. I mean, we made a huge difference.
We
with
appreciate
this
you
solution.
coming.
No, this is really good. And I will put notice out to our group letting about the February 3rd, but again, along the lines of a few of us are going, if a few more want to come, fine, we'll try to start gathering things in. And then Greg, maybe you and I can follow up and schedule something for a time for the meeting, whether it Knights of Columbus or BFW before. I think that, those kind of things are very helpful. We know when they had the public meeting for the DIF, we showed up with 125 people, and so folks were very engaged. It may not be the same way here because that was financial interest for everybody, but a lot of giving the opportunity to be informed and
This is
involved.
potentially more financial.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be.
Than
Yeah, no, they need to understand, as you say, how can this benefit them?
And help. This isn't. We appreciate you guys coming up. This is what I told you guys at that Mass Grant. That's you organize a group that didn't just bring the pitchforks, and we have to work for these things.
135 letters of support for the Mass Works grant.
And so we appreciate you coming out and do a continued successful path together. So. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
So we'll change removal to in the sewer district, but not in the overlay.
That's okay.
No, we need that. Can someone make a motion to continue the public hearing for 10 Mill Street?
Could I, if I could, sorry.
Second.
Wait, we have a comment.
I know, but we're in the middle of the motion. You saw me,
I think actually had his hand up before that. but-
Well, but I recognize him first, so can we just stay with this and finish what we're doing? All right, did you second it?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor? All right.
Discussion. That was all about residential. If I could just ask a couple questions and point out a couple of very quick things, I know it's late. Regarding the commercial end of this, the other two parts of the dog bone on the map. Well, mainly just one in particular, but on the draft that I was looking at, you were referencing 20 units per acre. On the draft I was looking at, it's 20 units per lot in the Eastman side. Is that, am I looking at an old version?
That's right.
And also...
There was a mistake in the original version, version 2 had it backwards.
Okay.
So the Eastman is 20 The depot is 10.
And Eastman and Depot are reversed on the stories?
Yeah, but that got fixed on this version.
Okay, I'm looking at,
So the,
somehow I'm
This
looking
is
at.
version 3.
Okay.
so the default district, sub-district, is it 20 or 10? Second.
Depot's 10.
Depot's 10.
Depot is 10.
Yeah.
Eastman's 20, but it's 20 per acre or
Yeah.
20 per
No.
lot?
Per acre.
Okay.
Approximately, because it's
Yeah,
one
10
per
per acre.
2,500 square feet, so yes.
Yeah, 10 per
25,000.
acre on,
Yes,
I'm
okay,
looking at
on
the
Depot.
second story.
Thank you.
And
And
then,
then the lot description is 20,000.
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't see that.
okay.
20,000.
There's,
Oh. All right, so the stories make sense then. I was wondering why they were proposing 4 stories on Depot and 3 in.
Yeah,
Oh, right, yeah.
yeah, I'll mix it up.
And someone had mentioned, why not carry that straight across? I would, my thought is that Eastman is different than Depot. The area is a taller area.
That's what we're trying to do, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think more amenable to.
4 stories.
Thanks for coming.
20%.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, agree with us.
This is only if you
I had
have
to say
25,000
something.
square feet.
That's right.
Have a good day.
You too.
So I don't know what happens under 25,000.
Is version 3 online?
25,000.
It's a good question for
Excuse me,
Julia.
is version 3 online?
No, none of this is online.
No, this is not. But,
It's not correct.
Okay, I'll make a
right,
motion to,
yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
approve I make a motion to approve the minutes from
And then the other
January
one
13th.
was,
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I'll recuse myself.
Oh, you're recusing yourself?
I have the sign-in sheet
Not
over
gonna
here as
rush
well.
Nothing to report. Anybody have anything? We're all good?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes.
Yes, it is.
I just want to get comments, I want to get comments back to Judy. What I heard was there should be more difference between the two neighborhoods, in terms of the